1050.
All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Brian Hayes, Frankie Corrado. Man, JP bringing the heat. I love this, man. I'll tell you what. I was never a huge Van Halen fan. Like, never. It was not, I always liked a couple of their songs, and it was always nostalgic for me. I remember going to the Gardens as a kid, and for whatever reason, the song Jump sticks out to me. Like, whenever I think of the Gardens and the music that they would play almost every break in play, felt like all I heard was Jump. Like, I'd hear Van Halen. So I'm always like, all right, I got a good history of Van Halen. I've always loved going to the Gardens as a kid, and I remember Jump being played down there a lot. But I guess 8 months ago, Frankie, I read something about Eddie Van Halen and his brother, and I thought, I got to get into the archives here. And I have pulled a complete 180. I love Van Halen.
Dude,
I am
Van
all
Halen
over Van Halen now.
Van Halen on a summer day, windows down, which admittedly, I saw you and Jonas talking. I'm not a huge windows down guy when it's above 25 degrees. But for Van Halen, Backcountry Road, what was that? Unchained? Is that what JP was? That's what
Epic.
a tune. Like,
Epic.
and he could have come in with like Panama, which I think we do sometimes when the Leafs are playing well, or
Panama,
running
that's
with
another
the
one.
devil. But Unchained, like that's a bit of a deeper cut there from JP. Well
it
done.
is. That's like a really your stuff Van Halen type of track. Because you're right. Like the album that came out, I think it was called Jump, wasn't it, in 1984? That was Panama, and Jump was on that. And that was like their number one, like, biggest album ever.
Dude, I want to say Hot for Teacher was on that album too.
It might have been. Like, Running with the Devil was their first single. That was off their Van Halen 1. That was their first album. And that thing is a great track to start your career.
And never, like, okay, to start with that, and then you got Eruption and the cover of You Really Got Me on the same album.
Great
that
track,
album is
great cover.
That's got to be one of the best debut albums in the history of rock and roll. I'm willing to put it out there.
I totally agree, but then I've, like, again, because I've gotten knee-deep into this over the last 6 months, I've done a lot of reading, and, like, Rolling Stone magazine is great at this because they always do rankings. But if you're ever looking for rankings, and I'm a big ranking guy, I'm sure you are too, Frankie, I want to read someone that knows the catalog, top to bottom, and you tell me what you think. Like, which are the best albums, the sneaky, under-the-cover songs. And Van Halen 2, they came out with pretty quickly because the first album was so popular. And it's got, like, Dance the Night Away, which is such an underrated tune. An all-time great. That track comes on, like you mentioned, in the summer on a dock. If you're golfing and you're feeling it and that song comes on, you are going, birdie, birdie, birdie. Beautiful Girls is on now, which has got one of the great riffs
That's the one I'm thinking
ever.
of, yes. What an unbelievable starting riff. Beautiful
ever.
Girls.
Finest Beautiful Girls to start the next segment.
And
right out of the gate.
You know what I appreciate about Van Halen? They weren't afraid from doing a cover.
Yes.
Right? They had You Really Got Me, and then they had the Roy Orbison one. What am I thinking of? Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman, that's right.
Dude, Pretty Woman cover? Are you kidding me?
Outstanding stuff.
So good.
All right, we're going Van Halen all day.
We could go Van Halen all day, but if JP slips up and goes Van Hagar, I'll have something to say.
I'm all David Lee Roth all day.
100%.
I have no time
Van
for Sammy.
Hagar zone.
I have no time for Sammy. I'm all David Lee Roth all day. The 84 album was called Jump, and it's just, that's Mike tweeting in. Shout out to Mike. You know, Mike is such a huge Van Halen fan.
Dude.
That's the beauty of referencing. And you can reference any group, any artist, and the beauty of social media is you're going to connect with someone who's been waiting for us to play it and bring it up so that they could jump in and be like, I saw them at the Gardens in 86, and then I went, yeah, I love it. Love it.
Yeah, I saw Eddie Van Halen do Eruption for, like, on the first tour.
Yeah.
Buddy, I got something for you.
Okay, what do you have?
So if you play in a scramble, and it wasn't a tournament, but we missed you out there yesterday,
That's
not going
right.
to lie.
Bad back, and that is a fact. I have not played in over a week. It's trouble right now.
When you have the cart or starting hole 1A, chances are a couple things may have happened. you got some kind of clout with someone in the shop, and you're like, hey, it would be nice. I got some guests coming out. Can you put us on 1A? We don't feel like starting on 12 and doing a whole, wrap around of the course. But then when people started to see, like, people look at who's in 1A. Like, it's like a curiosity thing. They got to be like, oh, I'm starting on 7. Who the hell's 1A? And then they're driving by, and they see me and Sloss and Jay, and they see the name Brian Hayes, and they're like, what's up with Hazy B? Hazy B got 1A, and we're heading out on the course. Where is this guy?
Shoot deployment. I was worried about that because you told me about the whole setup and what was going on that day, and I was worried about that. If you have the names in the slot, like it can ring out, and that I owe everyone up there a deep apology, a deeply rooted apology. That
Dude,
is
there
sincere.
were some old Italian guys giving some serious side eye, saying like this. First of all, these guys that are younger, been a member at the course for like 2 years, and this guy starting on 1A because Brian Hayes is coming out, and they're just driving by with disgust.
That is worthy of disgust too. Like if I was there, they'd probably spit on my shoes and be like, "How dare you?" Because you're right. I mean, it is 1A is very, very special. Like very, very special. And yet I was not there. I was not there.
I hope you're feeling better.
I am feeling better. I'm already getting card. People are saying the album was called 1984 in 1984. So there you go.
Okay,
now
enough.
I've pissed off not only Mike, Derek, Lee, all these people are tweeting and saying, you're an idiot, Mike's an idiot. I misquoted Mike. That's my apology. But I owe everyone up there an apology. I got to get up there soon. It's got to happen. Got to get out. And listen, whenever I'm out, I'm sure it's just like you. We're talking Jays right now. Like I've got buddies texting me constantly. Like I'm right back in on the bandwagon. Then the Jays, last night was particularly ugly. Hoffman again. Bichette's at bat in the ninth was one of the worst at bats you will ever see from a professional. That was like someone was pulled out of the seats. It was just a horrendous at bat. But, and we're going to play it up here on TSN 4. I mean, that swing is just horrendous. Completely redeemed himself this afternoon. Completely redeems himself. Man on second and third. He comes up in the sixth, and he didn't dribble one up the middle, but he got one through, cashes 2 runs, and then Lucas hit a bomb, a 3-run home run later that inning, and they held on for dear life because Rodriguez got hit, their bullpen got hit, Barrios got hit again today, but the Jays did stop the bleeding. And, man, is that a significant win. Like, you had to pick up one in Baltimore, Frankie. You could not head home, day off, trade deadline tomorrow, losing 5 in a row. You couldn't do it.
Dude, 100%, and it's just one of those things where there was a couple ugly losses. It wasn't like it was tight for the majority of this little skid that they were on. Like it's 10-4, 11-4, that kind of stuff gets out of hand. You just need to bring it back to some kind of semblance of what was going on, and they did that. And Bichette gets the redemption, and I think now that we head into the trade deadline, like not far away, the rotation kind of comes to the forefront, right? Like it's an old rotation. I think the average age is like 34 on that rotation. And that's an area of significance for them that they'll need to address. But the fact that they got a win, and doesn't matter how, you get it done. Now you have some games that you can still kind of, keep yourself in the driver's seat because their chances of winning the division right now are still pretty high. It's
absolutely.
Like, Fangraphs, it's like 70% that they're going to win the division. They just got to keep kind of trucking. Nothing crazy, but just keep plucking off wins as you go. Yeah,
if you're the hottest team in the league for a month and a half, that you've done enough damage where the rest of the way you have to stay above water. And that's what was concerning about the previous 4 games and the 4-game losing streak was there was some ugly baseball in there. Like they were getting pumped, and then like last night was discouraging because it was kind of a lower scoring battling game. And again, Hoffman gets hit and we know what happened in the top of the 9th last night. But today would have been very disappointing if they threw away this game. Again, they were kind of chasing it. They had that big 7th inning with Bichette and Lucas, and they're up 9-5 at that point. And then they had to hold on for dear life, but they got it done. Like you had to get it done. You had to find a way to get that win. You're going to lose games. There's going to be blips. There's going to be different times where the rest of baseball is waiting for this Blue Jay team to show their true colors, which is not an awful team. I don't think anyone's looking at them and thinking that they're just going to fall off a cliff. It's not going to be an 18-wheeler. But I don't think anyone in baseball was of the belief that they were going to run away with the AL East or potentially finish with the best record in baseball, and that is something that they have held in recent weeks. So there's going to be challenging. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be people coming at you. Now you're the pace car. But we're looking at
there already is challenges. They got injuries,
yeah.
right? Like you're just trying to pluck off these wins, and you're facing some adversity. And thank God that you won all those games. You were the hottest team in baseball because you, like you said, you do have a little bit of a cushion here. So you have a little bit of leeway, like to even play 500 ball for the next little bit, get everyone back, get your reinforcements from the trade deadline. Like they could not have put themselves in a better position now. And the reality is, unless the Yankees or the Sox go on a heater the way the Jays did, you're playing 500, 550 ball. Mm-hmm. You tell me, you should be fine.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
That should be A-okay for them.
Yeah, I'm not looking at, the Yankees made another acquisition today. They're going to try to continue to bolster their lineup, but Aaron Judge is going to determine what happens there in terms of how many wins that they can possibly end up with. The Sox have been very, very inconsistent all year. They've had their ups and downs. So you're right. I mean, you got a 4.5-game lead on the Yankees, a 5-game lead on the Red Sox, and you got the Royals here this weekend. Then you go to Colorado. Now, Baltimore just proved to you can't play down to your competition, and it's still, you got to show up, you got to pitch, you got to have fundamentals, you got to have big hits, and that was lacking for the first 3 games of the series. But you're in a very good position. Like, you couldn't ask for a better position now for your GM to do something, and over the next, he's got less than 24 hours to do it. Right, the trade deadline's tomorrow, and I do believe that they're going to acquire another bullpen arm. I think that's been proven over the last 48 hours or so that they're going to need help. They might need more rotation help, like you just pointed out. They're an older group. Now, the 3 older guys in Gausman, Barrios, and Bassett, they pitch every 5th day. They never get hurt. Like, you knock on wood, but they're always available to you. I thought Lauer was pretty good last night. Like, Lauer did what he was supposed to do. There wasn't Eric Lauer didn't lose that game for him. So I think you can rely on that. Scherzer's going to be a wild card all year. But once you have to get beyond those 5 guys, if you do for any reason, that's where it gets scary. Like, you don't want to be going to Lucas or whoever else in a big game in September where you've got to make up games if there's rainouts or if there's, double headers or whatever it is, or injuries for that matter. So they got a lot of work to do here, but it's worth doing the work. And that's what makes it such a positive trade deadline, is that you're looking to bolster what has proven to be a pretty good team and a pretty resilient team. And that was, I think, the significance of the win today. I mean, you could not leave Baltimore getting swept. You couldn't do it. You could not leave there. You lose team. 4 straight and the 5th game, obviously, on Sunday in Detroit. You are licking your wounds coming home. Now you got to win today. You stop the bleeding. It's all good. You reset. You get ready for Friday night.
Yeah, and what the Jays need to avoid is if any time we're going to go and check, what their record is and what they've done in their last 10, we can't go and see that they're 2-8 or 3-7. Like, it's just, that's not going to work for them down the stretch. And at least, like, things that were issues last year are not issues seemingly this year. Like, we'll see what happens with the rotation. We'll see what happens with the bullpen. I like the fact that the bullpen arm that they added, the guy throws heat, man. Like, he can hit triple digits. Yeah. Like, and he gets guys to swing and miss. That's one thing that I always want to see the Jays try and add when it comes to the bullpen, is someone that's going to come in there and hit 98 on his first pitch. And like, this guy can do that. And it's like, listen, they're in a good spot. They have to avoid the slides where it's like you just went 2-8 in your last 10. You can't have that.
And the best way to avoid that is starting pitching. And the fact is, the starting pitching was not very good in Baltimore. It just obviously Easton Lucas is not a guy that you intend on pitching again in the future, but it wasn't good. Bassett was awful. Barrios really struggled today. So, there's something about Baltimore. They're in your division. Sometimes there's something about certain parks and certain scenarios where you just don't feel right. But the best way to keep that consistency going is you can just turn the ball over every single day to another starter who you feel good about giving you 5 or 6 innings, because the bats have been there. Like, even when they lost the first few games of the series, they were producing runs. They were registering hits and producing hits and getting on base. It was just the game was so out of hand because the arms weren't holding up. But, I think you look at Bichette in particular, might have been the most important hit he's had all year today in the afternoon. I don't think you can overstate the significance of that RBI single he hit in the 7th inning today, cashed 2 runs, gave them the lead. They were down 5-4 because of the game he had last night. Like, he goes 0 for 5 last night, 3 strikeouts. A couple of them were terrible. The one in the 9th was horrendous, and a 3-2 count to chase that pitch with Vladdy on deck waiting for you was absolutely unacceptable. But he's been so good, so clutch all year. For him to step up in the scenario that he was in today and to cash those 2 runs, I think that was huge for Bichette, man. That was huge for Bo.
I kind of wonder, Hayes, if he has been the best hitter with runners in scoring position in the AL. Is that what he is
in Major League Baseball? Period.
Right. So so he's up at the dish. He's probably thinking I've got this. I can make contact on a ball that maybe I normally wouldn't or shouldn't swing at, just because he's had the hot hand in those situations. And you get burnt last night, and then today he gets a pitch that he can make contact with, and there you go. It's like he didn't let the one incident turn cascade into this negative thing. Mm-hmm. He was right back in it, and that's exactly what you want to see, and that's what he did. He's been clutch, man, and that's been of all the things that have happened for the Jays this year, we talked about it so much last summer, but runners in scoring position, cashing in runs, depth scoring, Joey Loperfido with 3 hits. All these things add up and get you wins at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Loperfido leading off today. 3 hits. Clement hitting second. He had 2 hits today. And you're right. Listen, Bichette's one of the most aggressive hitters you're going to see in a game. He gets up there with a green light, internal green light, every single time he's up, at the dish. I mean, that's just the way he operates. So, yes, I think you're right. He was on his toes way too much last night. But if there's anyone that's going to be given a free pass or should be granted an understanding that at some point you're going to kind of kick it around a little bit, it's Bichette, because he's been so clutch for them, and especially the last month and a half. And again, he was today. And again, then Lucas hits a 3-run home run later in that inning, and the Jays hold on to win 9-8. So they're off tomorrow, trade deadline tomorrow, and then at home against the Royals on Friday. Dallas Braden later this hour on what the Jays have been doing recently, what he makes of Dominguez joining their bullpen, and what he thinks the Blue Jays still need to do between now and tomorrow's trade deadline. We'll go around the MLB also with Dallas. We've got a lot of things cooking today. The nail gun coming up in studio. Dave Naylor has been doing a lot of NFL training camp runs. He's been all over the East Coast, basically. He was down in Baltimore yesterday. He was in D.C. the day before. So the nail gun will be in studio at 5. We'll catch up with him. Role play level of concern today as well. Frankie Corrado's in here. I'm Brian Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
come get that.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Like, this song just has to be in the rotation now, basically every day. One of the great opening riffs you're going to find. Van Halen all day for no other reason than JP decided to play a Van Halen song to start the show. So we're just going to continue with that. Yeah, he came in hot,
man. I respect it.
Absolutely.
I guess he's a part-time DJ now. I don't know. I wonder what JP gets up to on his spare time, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know what JP's up to. I got to be honest. I'm not sure what JP's doing with his spare time. He's doing something, but I'm not sure anyone really knows. Not sure anyone wants to really know what JP's up to.
Never know.
You never know. You never know with JP.
Know.
But we got Dallas Braden coming up here in a few moments, and there are deals happening. Brian Hayes traded from Pittsburgh to Cincinnati.
Shout out your boy.
Yeah, it's just such a great name. K-E' Brian Hayes. Brian with a Y, too, which is beautiful. Yeah. So he's on his way, third baseman with the Pirates for a long time, going within the division to the Reds. But, yeah, I mean, there's deals happening. There's going to be a lot of relief pitchers, and I saw Keegan tweet now, Keegan Matheson this morning. You know, the word is that you got to pay a premium to get a stud bullpen arm, but it's a seller's market, so why would you not expect that? Yeah. I don't know how much of the price is really going to drop in 24 hours when you've got 7-8 teams that still think they can compete. And,
I guess that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the problem, you know?
Yeah, and I guess we're going through that right now in the NHL. Didn't all the insiders say, Hayes, that, this summer it's shaping up to be crazy. We could have all kinds of deals because guys, GMs didn't think that they got their business done at free agency, and now they're going to go via the trade route. We've had nothing.
Nothing.
Have we had any, like Dakota Joshua? That's what we've had.
Yeah,
We've
nothing.
had nothing to talk about in the hockey world. It's like everyone went up to the cottage and said, I think we're done. And all these teams are going to play out the start of the season, see where they're at, and eventually we'll get 2 months in. Some teams will be 10 games under 500 and say, okay, we're probably going to be sellers. But even at that point, maybe we'll hold on to our players until the trade deadline because the prices are just going to go up. Teams are going to get more desperate. So I don't know when all this action is supposed to happen in the NHL.
I'm not sure it's going to happen. I really don't. I would double down on the NBA. Same thing. Like the insiders were all saying, you're not going to believe what I'm hearing. What's going on out there are the chances of all these nuclear trades and nuclear action. Nothing is going on. There's been a couple of moves here or there, a couple of buyouts, a couple of Dame goes back to Portland, Chris Paul's going back to the West Coast, like little stuff like that. But you're right, the NHL, it's about re-signing guys. Winnipeg re-signed Dylan Sandberg today, avoiding arbitration, 3 years at $17.25 million per. So he's making a pretty penny. He's a good player. They're bringing the band back.
He's just under 6 per year.
Yeah.
Just under 6 per year.
Still, like 6 goals and like 20, 25 points. I know he's not, Cale Makar, but
he's a good player. He's like a top 4 guy for them.
Yeah.
And he'll play big minutes. I think that's one of those ones where if I was Winnipeg, I would have wanted to get that done on like a 7 or 8 year ticket before this new CBA kicks in and you can only do 5.
Right.
He's a really good player. So I think that's a big win for the player, but they avoid arbitration, and there you go.
Yeah, no, good player. And they're like in Winnipeg, it's about bringing the band back, clearly. Like that, they lost Steelers, they brought in Taves, but for the most part, they're going to be very, very similar team. The only player in the league that is still going to arbitration is Nick Robertson. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But you're right. There's a lot of teams that just think, maybe we're going to be better than people think, or we're going to give it a run. We're going to give it a shot. In baseball, I guess that applied to an extent last offseason, but now we're well over halfway into the year, and it's time to get cooking, man. We want more trades, and there has been some action, but if you're the Blue Jays, you picked up Dominguez last night, and I think everyone's anticipating they're going to do more, and they have to do more. To chat about it, we're joined now by former MLB pitcher, host of Baseball is Dead podcast, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Dallas Braden. What's up, Dallas?
How we doing, boys? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this. Yeah, we're excited, man. The Jays, they needed one today. Like they were starting to leak some oil. They had lost 4 in a row. The arms haven't been great. They weren't great again today, but they got a big win in Baltimore. They're leading the American League East. They're in a pretty good position. What more do you think they have to do? What more would you be expecting the Blue Jays to do over the next 24 hours?
Well, I think this is the time of year that everybody sort of affectionately refers to as the arms race, right? And I think just acknowledging what happened with Sir Anthony, right? Pack your duffel bag and head about 100 feet over to that side, and things look a little different. Not much, but they're different now. You're wearing a different color. It's all about trying to, I think, reinforce what you already may have in place. And I think from there, also trying to see, is there a way that we can sort of shore up and bolster, whether it's an offensive threat where, look, whether we're able to drive the ball out of the ballpark and we're comfortable with our ability to do that. Do we feel like we need to shore up some things defensively and maybe find a utilitarian that we can plug and play down the stretch to help not only alleviate some stress and give guys days off, but maybe just be a producer in their own right? Those are the questions that are getting answered right now. And I think as far as the Blue Jays are concerned, if you can continue to find ways to prevent runs as opposed to trying to score runs, I think that might be where they can, I don't know if it's maybe continue to separate themselves in this division, fend off some potential threats that are looming, because we know that the Boston Red Sox are looking to be active. We understand that the New York Yankees, even after, making their moves, coming out and saying that we are no longer in the Eugenio Suarez market after reeling in McMahon. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I'm not telling you that they're still in the third base market, but you understand that where the Jays are right now, I think for me, if it's about identifying ways to continue to prevent runs, that's probably where they can benefit.
What's your evaluation of the Jays rotation? Because if you look at the numbers right now, they're 28th in MLB and starting pitchers ERA this season, but they have, like Brian and I were talking about earlier, Brian made the point, some very reliable arms, some guys that can be counted on, aren't injured. Like, what's your general assessment of where the Jays rotation is at right now?
Well, I think you just hit it on the head, right? Struggling and in the lower tier league performance. And so it's one thing to have arms that can help get you through a season or through the dog days and down the stretch in September. But if you're the Blue Jays in the position you're in right now, don't you have bigger goals than that? And you have bigger goals than just the division series, I think, at this point. And what do you need to do to get you over that hump? Well, you have to have guys that you can count on to start those 7-game series. And so that's where attention to what the starting rotation can do for you, I think, starts to come into focus. And that's where, kicking around names like a Mackenzie Gore, who I know things haven't gone well for here recently, but a guy like Mitch Keller as well. Now, are these guys that are going to be able to take the baseball and make starts in those series outside of what they have right now? I think the answer to that is probably yes. So if that's the case, that's where I think you really do start to have to focus, because even if you have guys in that rotation who you don't think can make those important starts for you, well, now maybe they become a bigger part of the equation down there in the bullpen, because we understand that leash becomes extremely short in these postseason starts. Should a guy start to mount traffic early in the ball game, just looking for a change of pace, whether it's a platoon matchup or just a completely different look because one guy might not have it today, that's kind of how these guys who might be on the outside looking into that rotation equation, that's how they start to work themselves back into the picture.
With Dallas Braden, and you look at the bullpen, like Hoffman got barreled again last night. He's got a 4.87 ERA. He's given up a lot of home runs. Like when he gets hit hard. How comfortable would you be with Jeff Hoffman being, your number one high leverage arm in a playoff bullpen?
Well, would you like him or Johan Duran? And, that's the big fella from Minnesota.
Yep.
And I think that's where you really have to start thinking about how you're going to win those baseball games. And if you're comfortable with the arms in the rotation, getting you to what is probably, I think, safe to say, a bit of a shaky bridge to the back end. Well, now how much good is it doing that we're able to get the first, 12, 15 outs, which I just feel dirty even saying that a starting pitcher, that's all they account for.
Yep.
But in moments where they're not flipping that lineup for a third time, and maybe even, if things are going really well, a third, possibly a fourth time, the top third through, then you do have to start to look at who guys are at the back end, and is there a way to slide them up forward? I just don't know that you're as comfortable with Hoffman maybe today as you could be with some help outside of him.
When we started the hit, you did talk about the arms race, and if you look at the AL East, you're always going to talk about the Yankees, and I think if you're the Jays, you've built up this really nice cushion now over a team in the Yankees that probably believes they should be the top team. Do you feel like there would be any sense of, I don't know if I want to call it desperation from the Yankees, but we will pay more than you to acquire what we want to acquire, which they've essentially already started to do because they think, the Jays, we can knock them off if we make the right moves here?
Well, see, this is where the picture, the postseason picture opening up here recently, as it has, starts to impact this very conversation we're having. Because if you're a Yankee fan, wouldn't you like to think that that is the approach of your front office, who, for all intent and purposes, in my opinion, is still riding the coattails of what the boss, Mr. Steinbrenner, rest in peace, would be doing, or how he would typically be behaving, going out and quite literally buying his way, should it need to be that way, buying his way into the postseason, and to hell with it, buying a ring while we're there. Well, that sounds great. That's super exciting. But if you feel like you're on the verge of being able to enter the dance, and you don't have to bring a new dance partner along, meaning you're comfortable with what you have, and you might not have to spend and commit to something that is on the outside of what you're trying to do in the moment. I think that's where front offices are. I don't know if it's a deliberation that's occurring, or maybe it's just a acknowledgement of, hey, we're here to get to the postseason. This is where we're at. Do we feel like we can compete? Yes. Do we feel like we're just one big spend away? Now, that's where that conversation starts to get interesting, because if it's the Yankees who feel like, hey, we've got things figured out from a run prevention standpoint, maybe it's run production that we need to turn an eye to. And while Ryan McMahon provides the incredible defense that he's going to, do they say, you know what, we need to revisit a Eugenio Suarez conversation to plug in some power here? And that might be where you see the Yankees overspend or outspend just to keep up with the Joneses. I don't see that happening, but I think it'd be really interesting to watch the Yankees get backed into a corner per se and feel like, hey, we have to make a move and we have to spend in a way that nobody else can right now. And if they do that, then I think that signals a very interesting future for the Yankees outside of just the 2025 campaign.
With Dallas Braden, do you have a clear-cut best team in the American League?
Oh, I just don't know if it is as clear. It's funny, we were having this conversation today during our podcast. Is there a clear-cut best team in baseball as we sit right here today? And the conversation kind of centered around, who do you think the Dodgers are in the face of a lot of their injuries and what they've dealt with? Who are the Toronto Blue Jays is a conversation we had, and I pointed to kind of what we're talking about right now with what the starting rotation has struggled to be able to do, because I think you have to give real credence to what the Detroit Tigers have done. It feels like from pole to pole, the way they started the season, the run that they have continued to maintain. So if it's the American League and where we're at right now, if you had to put me on the chopping block right now, I think that Detroit Tigers are still at the top of that list.
Yeah, we talk about it daily because the Jays have put themselves into the conversation naturally. I mean, they've got just as many wins as the Tigers. 3 or 4 days ago, they had the best record in baseball. And I guess what separates the Tigers, especially in a short series, is you got Scooba on the mound in Game 1. Like he puts that's a huge separator. Something the Jays can't compete with the injuries of the Yankees. They can't compete with. I guess Crochet could in Boston, but that's the question mark. You look at Houston. Houston's got that history, right? For a decade, they've been the most successful team in the American League. I don't know. Would they scare you? Like I guess what I'm getting at is like it could be the Jays. They're not saying it's definitely us, but it does seem like it's kind of wide open. I guess is the point.
Yeah, no,
like it's wide open in the American League.
The boys are you're right. There is absolutely and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but I mean if you close one eye and squint with the other and maybe kind of look through a foggy glass, you can see how that starts to shape up, and I think the direction you're headed speaks to that, because what did the Tigers go out and do? They had to go out and get a little help in their rotation, right, with Chris Paddock, because unfortunately for Reese, it doesn't look like things are going to be bouncing back anytime soon. And so now you do have Scooble at the tip of the spear. You've got Flaherty, and then from there, it's a young guy in Troy Melton, I believe his name is, and then a bumpy road as of right now for Casey Mize, who has otherwise been great for the most part. But that's why we start to think about the 7-game series, and that's where I think even if there is just a slight bit of depth advantage in the rotation, you have to consider what that does in the best team for the AL conversation.
If you're a fan of the Jays, how concerned are you with their home versus road splits? Because you can look at it this way and say, oh, man, the Jays are 2 games below 500 on the road. But if you look down the standings in the AL East, it's like, well, the Yankees are 1 game below. The Sox are 5 game below on the road. So the teams that you're really trying to compete with, they generally tend to struggle on the road. So does it turn out to be an equal playing field, or is it just one of those things where, like, if the Jays can find some more wins on the road, that's just going to do them so many more favors?
That's exactly why we talk about trying to play at least, boys, if we can come off the road at 500, we really like where we're at, just simply because at home it's a given. So it's how do you find those wins on the road? How do you win those one road ball games? Like, how do you win when you're playing 15 out of 16? When you're playing 20 out of 21, 22, whatever it may be? Are you able to piece together those getaway day W's where you're really relying on the bullpen, you're really relying on some guys who might be, more role players than everyday guys to step up and put together decent at-bats over an entire game or 2 in a row so that you're able to come away from those road trips feeling a little better about yourself? If you can do that, then absolutely, you're adding to that separation. But I don't know how much of just based on what you're talking about, how close it is, the gap between the lack of success on the road, it is absolutely something that they can shore up that will put them in a much better position. And the confidence that you come off the road with, having been able to win the majority of the games that you just experienced. I know for the Athletics, just coming off a 10-day road trip, longest roadie of the season, and you end it by sweeping in a 4-game set the Houston Astros, who are a part of this conversation we're having. I know that the vibes have never been higher. The confidence is just dripping from the ceiling in that clubhouse right now, and it's because of the success that they had on the road against a postseason-bound club.
With Dallas Braden. So famously this week, I guess Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred went face-to-face over a salary cap and got into it, and Manfred wasn't backing down, and Harper wasn't backing down, and I guess Max Scherzer has chimed in, and Scherzer said, we haven't had a chance to catch up with Rob, but I look forward to catching up with him when he decides to join us in Toronto, which is just terrifying. The idea that Manfred's going to walk in and Scherzer's just going to be absolutely side-eyeing him immediately with the 2 different colored eyes.
Man.
Oh, he's just going to be staring like right through Manfred, like, come get some because I want to have a word with you. Take us inside the union. Famously, obviously unified union and a very strong union compared to the other leagues and the other unions in hockey and basketball and football. Like, as a former player yourself, Dallas, when you hear the term salary cap, how do you respond?
I would tell you to dust off that old insurance broker playbook, dust off that old real estate handbook, and get comfy with maybe doing something else for the 2027 campaign.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know how at this point in time, I hate to put our sport in this situation, but we are at, in my opinion, the biggest impasse that our sport is going to experience, because we're starting to talk about, for the first time, earning power, earning capability on a multitude of fronts. It's not just about the player on one side being able to earn X amount, or the ownership groups being able to control, revenue sharing, things of that nature. This is how we look at our sport. And a very fundamental difference between our sport and every other sport going. So when you start to have conversations like that, I don't think it's something that, and this is why I would really be encouraged if we were having positive and forward-moving conversations in the year of our Lord 2025. That would be fantastic. But it just doesn't feel that way. And you have to get out in front of this kind of stuff, because you don't want to be left on the doorstep on the night of or the eve of and not really have an idea still of where we're at and where we're going in this conversation. So when we're starting to talk about salary cap, salary floor, from there you start to have the conversation about player earning power and how quickly that can become a thing, right? Because the idea of controllability and arbitration and free agency, well, the amount of time that we're spending in each one of those phases of earning power, that is something that has to be addressed immediately. I know the ownership groups are not necessarily interested in that. And I think you can understand, like, if you just say it slow, it really starts to make sense. Like, so they want to cap how much is spent, but do not want to give up any of those controllable years of service. Is that how I'm reading that? Mm-hmm. Spend less, but still maintain all of the control? Oh. And so now you might be able to understand why there's going to be some pushback. You might start to understand why players are looking at this going, I'm just not quite sure that works. But I will say this. For as loud and as vocal as some of those veteran voices are in that room, I think you have to give real credence to the idea that if there's individuals who have made their money, if there's individuals who have already gotten to that place of compensation where they're comfortable and it might be easier for them to just sort of keep things moving along, well, that's where things could get very interesting, because it's always been about the veteran presence and the veterans in the room understanding how this goes, understanding what had to be done in years past that has allowed us as players in the current system right now to be where we are at. And I think if there continues to be a lack of appreciation for that and a lack of understanding on how we got here, well, that is something that the ownership group would love to play a role in negotiations, because if you're just that much more ignorant and you're just that much more uninformed on how we got here, well, then you might be that much easier to snowball and push over into the direction that they would like to go. And so that's always something that I am aware of, and I'm always keenly observant upon.
Dallas, how much, like, within the player group would, you have conversations with guys, you train with guys in the off season, you have friends that you know along the way. How much have you guys talked about the owners that refuse to kind of spend the money? The teams that are like, they're the lower end teams, and they're always going to be the lower end teams, and they draft this great talent, and eventually they can't pay them, and these guys move on and play for the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets and whoever. Like, how much of that gets talked about? Because in hockey, what happened when the salary cap came in was the equivalent of the Pittsburgh Pirates. That team could win a Stanley Cup now, because they were on a level playing field with the Rangers or the Maple Leafs or whoever. And, like, yeah, it's provided parity within the league, but guys don't sign big signing bonuses. Like, guys don't make what they should make in comparison to the other four major sports. So I'm just curious, like, how much you guys would talk about, these ownership groups around the league that just refuse to spend money.
Well, kind of along that same vein, and that is an incredible point to bring up, because I always try to maintain enough perspective to be able to look at this thing from both sides, so that you're not just finding yourself in a vacuum and reinforcing some absolutely crazy harebrained thoughts that you start to develop at 2 a.m. up by yourself. So I think in that regard, you would love for there to be that competitive balance. And now what we start to talk about is some of that homegrown talent staying put, right? Because the teams understand that they're now in a position maybe to be able to sign these guys, sign them for long term, because there's a finite window of fiscal operation that they can project. And that's where the pushback comes from the player side, is, I think, understanding that we will be operating in this certain box but at no point in time is that going to take away the amount of revenue that continues to get generated. So that's where the conversation with revenue sharing, I think, would probably kick back up. But in terms of making sure that, the parity, which when you say it like that, when it's almost crazy how there can be two different connotations attached to that, because parity implies that there's not a ton of excitement here and that all teams being equal, like, the season's going to play out almost like an algorithm, and, whoever's buttons get lucky that day, well, that's who's going to come out of the computer system with the winner. I don't know how much fun it is to watch a league like that unfold year in and year out, because I think there is something to being the underdog, and there is something to taking down the juggernaut en route to an unlikely postseason experience and eventually a postseason championship. When you think about meddling teams who just get hot at the right time, and that's why we always talk about playing well at the right time and what that means, because you can run into a better team who's struggling. But if we are doing all the little things and we're clicking, our starters are going 6-7, we're able to hand it over to a lights-out bullpen who, with a few guys, are on a scoreless streak, and we've got guys seeing beach balls in the lineup for the last 2 weeks. I like that. That feels good. And the taste in your mouth after winning in a situation like that, after being counted out at the beginning before we even threw a first pitch, man, that tastes about as good as anything ever does.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation is absolutely there in a long-winded answer. It is absolutely there because I know that that's something that players want to be able to depend on or to bank on is, hey, I want to know when I'm going to get compensated. I want to know how long that window is. And am I almost, running my entire shelf life as a ball player before I ever get to a point where I can really tap into my earning capability?
Always great catching up with you, Dallas. We appreciate it. Enjoy the trade deadline tomorrow. We'll do it again soon.
Best of luck to you, boys. Hold tight, and we'll see you. Hopefully we'll see you late in October.
Yes, sir. There he is, Dallas Braden, former MLB pitcher and co-host of the Baseball is Dead podcast, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. It doesn't sound great. I mean, we're still a couple years away, year and a half away from having to worry about that CBA. But if the seeds are being planted now in terms of where the owners are coming from, and the players are they have to stick their they have to try to at least hold up for as long as they can and push back on a salary cap. They're not just going to wilt and say, fine, we'll take it, let's accept it. It's not going to happen. Seems like a work stoppage is a borderline lock at this point. But that's not a concern right now because the Jays, they won today, and they're back in action on Friday at home against Kansas City. Dave Naylor coming up in about 15 minutes. Tom Brady with some advice to Scotty Scheffler. We'll tell you about that. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Dave Naylor in studio in about 10 minutes. We'll tell you Tom Brady's advice for Scotty Scheffler. Get into a number of things with the nail gun, including looking ahead to the new week in the CFL, which will kick off tomorrow night. So we got a lot to get into with the nail gun. We're tracking what could be happening throughout baseball. The Mets just acquired a relief arm and paid a fortune for him. Tyler Rogers coming over from the Giants, and they've given up 3 different players, prospects, good prospects. So if you are a team like the Blue Jays and you're trying to pick up relief arms, might be a little bit concerning because that would indicate the price is incredibly high. But you got to pay to play, man. You can't. Yeah. What are you going to do? Wake up on Friday and say, "Well, we just didn't want to pay." Like if you're in it, you're in it. And if you want to be one of the big boys, sometimes you got to be aggressive. And I think that's probably what's going to happen here. I think it was 10 years ago today they went out and got David Price. And
this was the day?
Yeah, I believe it was 10 years ago today, I believe.
And we were talking about that earlier, whatever it was, a couple of weeks ago. But that team just skyrocketed from that point. It was like there was a lot of potential there. They just weren't hitting it. And then those moves were made, and that was it, man. Yep. It was over.
Quick. Price, then Tulo, and the rest was history. So, yeah, it's going to cost you. It's going to be uncomfortable. But your team's put yourself in a position here where you're leading the American League East. The American League is wide open. Ross Atkins and company, they got to get active here. Something's got to happen here in the next 24 hours. So more on that into hour 2. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Brian Hayes, Frankie Corrado, and look who we have in studio here. Dave Naylor joining us. Dave, you've been everywhere. You were in, Baltimore yesterday? You were in D.C. the day before that?
I woke up in Washington this morning.
Oh, you were in Washington this morning?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got out of Baltimore. You went down there to do a hit, and you basically left?
We went Sunday. We did the Commanders on Monday and Baltimore yesterday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then Baltimore practiced at 1:30, so they didn't wrap up till late. It was too late to get out. It was interesting. Washington moved their practice to 8 a.m. because of the heat. And so, coaches' availability was at 7:30. They're off the field at 9:30. We're taping our hit at 10 in the morning.
That's amazing.
10 in the morning.
That's like a spring training schedule. There's no better schedule than being a veteran in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Where you show up and you're like, listen, and they basically indicate how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Like if you're a guy that's been in the league for 10, 12, 15 years, you're like, I will be there at 7. I'm going to stretch. I'll hit the cage. I'm going to do a couple of things. I have a tee time at 9:40. I will be out of here.
Well, and it's funny because, during the time I've been doing NFL, not that long ago, I remember 2-a-days. Teams would practice from 9 to 11 and 2 to 4, or something. And, of course, the reporters all had to hang around. But, NFL team, most of them, the Steelers was kind of interesting because Mike Tomlin purposely moved their practices to afternoon because he said last year there wasn't enough heat.
Right. They were too soft last year.
And he, without being asked when I was there last week, and it was hot, without being asked about it, he made a point in his post-practice thing of saying, I thought the heat really helped us today. We were better. We were sharper because of that. I'm like, you're going to win a game in January because you practice in the middle of the sun and all.
Kind of crazy.
How does that play
part
with the
of
players,
it? Exactly.
Nail gun? If that happens in hockey, there's guys hemming and hawing, guys are bitching about it. How does that go over with the football player dynamic? Are those guys bitching about it the same way?
I didn't catch any of that. They all kind of just went along with it. I mean, I think when the head coach lays a line down like that for training camp, it's kind of like, especially when it's the idea that it's done with the mandate that we're going to be tougher and better.
Right, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge, yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Last year, we let you off the hook, and we allowed you to, basically prepare for the season in adequate weather. Now we're going to really challenge you.
I would love to hear somebody from the sports science world tell you that you can get better by practicing in intense heat.
It is an old school football mentality.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're going to put you through pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is the polar opposite of what they're going to see in December and January. Yet, it's uncomfortable. That feels like a very Belichick type of play.
Yeah.
And what I've witnessed throughout, my years following the NFL and, as a Packer fan, I've been tracking their camp, and they've put a real emphasis on physicality and getting much tougher. And that was always the Belichick way. The secret sauce, obviously you have Brady, and we'll get to Brady in just a moment. He had an interesting quote and, I guess, piece of advice for Scotty Scheffler. I'm curious how you stand on that. But what Belichick always believed in was we have to be tougher than the other team. Yeah. We have to be nasty. The intimidation counts. And this is, I guess, a form of that, forcing your players to be uncomfortable and proving that it's not going to affect them.
Well, I'll tell you a more dramatic example of that we saw last year when we were at Detroit's camp. Davis Sanchez and I were there. And Davis is just freaking out because they're running drills, tackling guys to the ground in August.
That's old school.
I don't
Did they do that old school? Maybe they didn't even do that.
Davis would just say, I've never seen this before.
Wow.
Guys being hit in the backfield and taken to the ground. Now, I don't want to draw any parallels between that and the rash of injuries that the Lions had. I don't know if that's how they practiced all year, but it it stood out.
Yeah.
No question. No
yeah.
question.
Well, it's a part of it, right? It's every sport is a different surface. And that's the beauty of football is that you can't predict the weather and the elements.
Yeah.
Right? Frankie, you might prepare in hockey for it being different on the road compared to being at home. That's something maybe you practice and it's loud. You blare music so that you have to get comfortable with that. But
even that, Hayes, that doesn't even really happen, man. It's all kind of boilerplate stuff. The only thing that you would do different maybe in hockey is if you're doing special teams and you're on the power play, the coach might tell the penalty kill, we're not doing our penalty kill today. We're doing the Senators' penalty kill today. So because the power play's been struggling, and this is what they got to see. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much it, man. Practice has been like dropped to like it's like 40 minutes, but it's hard now in the NHL. Like this is the reason why I think guys are having like hip issues, wear and tear issues. It's not like you go out for practice and you go for a spin, a couple flow drills, maybe some special teams and get off. It's like they want you going hard for 40 and get out of there. And I don't know, maybe there's some teams in football that think the same way. Just like we got to practice harder. Well, you can only practice so hard, but because we don't want to be so different when it comes to the game.
Right. Yeah, it's constantly evolving, and every coach obviously has a different viewpoint. I just referenced Belichick, and I'll do it again because he used to like be seeking out rain. I remember reading about that. Like, oh, bad weather, we're practicing outside.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going in to protect you guys. You got to get used to this because guess what? On Sunday, if it rains, we're not going inside. You're playing.
2 years ago, I was at Houston Texans camp. And I called them in the mornings. It was 107. Are you guys inside or outside? Outside.
Yeah.
107.
Yeah.
And they had like a tent that sprayed cool mist.
Crazy.
So that reporters could like watch 5 plays and then go stand in the mist for 30 seconds. And that's what we were doing.
That's wild.
You couldn't just stand outside.
Like that's dangerous stuff. It is dangerous.
107.
Yeah, dangerous. But it's like the psychological buildup is a part of it. Dave Naylor in studio, Frankie Corrado. All right, I want to read these quotes from Tom Brady. Tom Brady was doing an interview with The Source, I believe it was, a magazine, and he was asked about Scotty Scheffler's comments prior to the Open Championship, where Scotty had said, "This is not a fulfilling life. You know, it's just not fulfilling in the sense of accomplishment." And he went on to say his priorities are his family and his faith, and golf is clearly a third. And Brady seemingly has taken offense to this and responded by saying, quote, "Scotty said he'd rather be a better father and husband than a good golfer. And my question is, why are those mutually exclusive? Sure, they're different blocks on the pyramid, but they're both part of the same pyramid. They're connected. For instance, I think part of being a great father is being a great example of doing what it takes to take care of your family. I chose to do it by playing football. My dedication to the sport, the hours of practice, the moments when I was laser focused, those were times when I believe I was doing the best possible thing for my family and my kids by prioritizing my profession and teaching by example what it takes to be a really good at your job, what it takes to follow through on commitments, and what it takes to be a great teammate. And showing them also by example that work is a big part of all of our lives," end quote. That's what I read into this, and you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. And I'll bet you Brady's not alone. They took offense to Scheffler claiming basically what I think he took it personally, that what Scheffler was saying was Tom Brady, freaks like Brady, they're not good parents. They're not good husbands. They're not good people. They're just, all they do is put everything into their career. And he's not alone. There's a lot of professionals in every single sport that I'll bet you heard Scheffler and said, "Shut up, dude. Like, don't think you're better than me." And I'm not surprised this is his stance. Well, like trying to qualify for a career where clearly he put his career first, and he's admitting to it right here, but claiming he did so intentionally because he thought it was for the best interest of his family life.
And look, I believe that what Tom Brady said would apply certainly to the first 2/3 of his career. I'm not sure it applies to the last third. Like, after you had $200 million in the bank, I'm not sure you're saying you're doing it for the family. Right. And after you've, and the commitment that the NFL takes. And I'm not trying to disparage any of these guys that want to play into their 40s in the NFL. But there is something, and this is something that makes athletes great, and it also makes them different than the rest of us. And Frank, you can jump in on this when I say this. When Tom Brady was in his 40s, and he made more money than most people ever, and he'd won 5 Super Bowls, he could have done anything in life. Anything. Mm-hmm. The entire planet, right? Every continent. And what did he want to do? Win another Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure that's actually the balanced, rational choice. But it's his choice because that's the way he's wired and that's the way he's been living. But I don't know that. It's like Tiger Woods playing golf. Why is Tiger Woods still playing golf? You're the greatest golfer of all time.
You're a billionaire.
You're a billionaire. You were golfing on the Mike Douglas show when you were 2. Like, is there anything else you'd like to do?
Yeah, no, but that's the purpose.
No, that's your purpose.
They don't want to.
That's your purpose.
That's your purpose.
That's what you've done since you were a kid. Like, you're wired to do the same thing, whether it's hockey, golf, football. You've been doing that same routine. It's changed along the way, and you got yourself to the apex. And you're like, I don't know anything different. I don't want to know anything different. This is what I love doing, and this fills me with my purpose. And like, I think there's so much gray area when it comes to this conversation, because Tom Brady's not wrong. You can be a great dad and you can be a great athlete, and you can put your heart and soul into both. And being a great example at work is something that your kids will see. But if it spills over into all of a sudden you're away for work and you're at the facility all day, and then I got to fly to like a movie premiere, or I got to go start doing like frivolous things, then it's like, okay, I think that's where you can say it maybe slips a little bit. But as far as like Scotty being at the range all day practicing, I think Tom Brady's right about that. Like, you're trying to be the best that you can possibly be at what gives you purpose in life outside of being a father. That's fine, man.
Yeah, I think the other reaction that Brady is putting forth here is that he can't comprehend what Scotty's saying in terms of, like, you're at the top of your game. Almost, you know what I would do to go back to be 28 again? Like, Brady's basically saying, I give it all up to go do it again. All of it. Because how could you possibly intimate that you would leave this? You're the man. You're the number one player in the world. You've worked this hard. Look who you are. And I think that's why Scheffler's comments got the reaction it got, why they're so unique, because in sports in particular, we are so accustomed to these, again, just freaks of nature. Brady at the forefront of that, Tiger at the forefront of that, LeBron James, these guys who we've known since they were like teenagers. In Tiger's case, like you said, he was like 3 or 4 years old. LeBron since he was 12 or 13. And all they know is, I got to work, play. I got to win. And Scheffler bucked that trend.
Being unbalanced.
Now, we'll see if he follows through on that, too. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to actually do it.
But being unbalanced in your priorities is part of what leads to greatness. Like, if you take anybody who's been really great at sports, if they weren't obsessive, they never tapped their potential.
Right.
I mean, there may be guys. It's funny. I remember there was a Sports Illustrated article years ago about Larry Walker. And the premise of the piece was Larry Walker grew up on baseball. Like, he was a hockey goalie. Got cut from the Regina Pats when he was 17. Went, okay, I got my other sport. I'll try that. And he won an MVP and went to the Hall of Fame. And the premise of the piece was kind of, how did Larry Walker become the best hitter at baseball, kind of doing it, while every kid in America is trying to, be the next great hitter. And those guys are rare, right? And I don't pretend to know Larry Walker's story intimately, but the point was, he was not an all-in baseball guy most of his life before he became a professional, and yet still managed to hit. That's rare.
That is very rare.
That is very rare.
And that's more of a kind of nonchalant attitude, to be respectful towards the craft. Now, who knows what else he's doing in his life, but that's the amazing thing about these Brady comments is that, again, I think he takes offense to Scheffler.
Sure, he does.
Because he's taking that as an attack. Yeah. Like, Scheffler's basically, yes, he's speaking of golf, but you could apply it to any sport. And he's just saying it's not fulfilling, it's not what should matter. And he wasn't lecturing, because he was talking internally. He was talking about himself and his own life. He wasn't saying this is what everyone else should do.
That's the way he sees it.
Totally. Yeah. But if you are a guy like Brady, who, obviously was uber obsessed with his craft, and there were reports at the end that maybe Giselle said, can you stop playing? And he's like, I'm playing. Yeah. And they're not together anymore. Right. And maybe that was a part of the reasoning, was because Tom's like, I'm going back to play. And, there's, like, you look at Tiger and his, and these are the cream of the crop, but Scheffler's played himself into that. And that's why his comments ring out so much, and why a guy like Brady would even react. Brady's not reacting to Scott, Gutterup's comments. No. You know what I mean?
No, it's the best player in the world.
Yeah, he's not commenting on the 75th player in the world, commenting on what he should be doing with his work-life balance. He looks at Scheffler as one of him. He sees himself in Scheffler. And I think he's like, what are you doing? I can't comprehend what you're even talking about right now.
And keep in mind, right, like, if you want to be what Brady was, or even what Crosby is right now, like pushing late 30s.
Yep.
And you want to compete with the guys that are coming up, like the young 22 to 25-year-olds, guess what? You can't, like, skip training sessions, and you can't, half-ass it. You have to be all-in committed the same way you were when you were in your 20s, or there's no point in you even doing it. So Brady had to do it. Crosby's got to do it. And Scheffler's young, but he'll get to a point where if he wants to maintain status at the highest level, like the way Brady did in football, he's going to have to commit the same way he is right now because he's winning, and there's probably a lot of work, and you would know there's a ton of work that goes into that behind the scenes. He'll have to maintain that if he wants to maintain, what those guys have done and did in their careers.
Frankie, you don't have to name names, but did you ever play with somebody in hockey who you saw their passion either for the sport or just being a professional hockey player and the lifestyle start to wane, and maybe that crept into their game and they didn't get as long a run as they would have if they had the same passion when they were in their early 20s?
You know what, Nail Gun? There's guys that honestly were in their mid-20s who hated hockey, but were just good at it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you can only get to a certain level if that's your personality. Guys, they didn't want anything to do with hockey outside of playing it. Didn't watch it, didn't want to talk about it, had no idea what was going around the league. They just knew that we practice tomorrow and we fly out and then we play the next day. And that was it. Whereas someone like Crosby, who I saw for a brief period of time, there was no gym session or optional skate or practice too small for him. It was like he was all out for, every single thing that he was doing. And sure enough, he's super skilled. He's gifted, but he's also the hardest working guy at any given moment. So that's what you get.
Well, and that is another part of this that sticks out that I think Brady's talking about, and I think he is speaking of this honestly, and I think he's got a case to make that I might describe it as why you're like obsessed or you're crazy or you're so competitive, which is true, but he also has an incredible work ethic. Like, in order for you to beat Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, Sidney Crosby, Michael Jordan, you have to work so hard. There's videos of Wayne Gretzky out there and Dustin Johnson talking about it. Like, Johnson's obviously his son-in-law, and he's, when you first met Wayne and you were with Wayne, what did he always say? He's like, you got to work harder than everyone else. You got to practice. Like, you got to be on it.
Well,
and I think that is probably where Brady's looking at this as well. He's like, dude, what are you talking about? Well, you have to be crazy in terms of gym, practice, work ethic. You got to be thinking about this constantly if you want to be at the top.
Well, think of the one thing that separates Tom Brady from a lot of the other names we've talked about. Tiger Woods, Sidney Crosby, LeBron. He came from the back of the pack as a professional. Like, LeBron was identifiable at 12.
Right.
I'm sure Sidney Crosby was identifiable at 9.
Yes.
Given
exactly.
how early.
These were phenoms.
Yeah, Tom Brady was not identifiable until Drew Bledsoe got hurt in 2001. I mean, it was obviously played at Michigan, and he was a 6th-round draft pick, but nobody saw stardom. In fact, I covered the first Brady Super Bowl. And it was my first Super Bowl I ever covered. And, it's hard to it was a completely different view of Tom Brady. He almost seemed like a college kid, who'd been thrown into the mix of the biggest sporting event in North America and made good on it. But I remember reading a story after that season where Brady was basically saying, I am absolutely determined to make sure I'm not a one-hit wonder, that I'm not going to be a footnote in the NFL where it says, remember who won the Super Bowl for the Patriots in 2000? Remember who the quarterback was, and that was Bledsoe? Yeah. No, it wasn't Bledsoe. It was this Tom Brady kid. It was a 6th. He started the game, and they won.
Right.
No, he was going to be around forever. And that was a serious conversation about whether Tom Brady was just a blip. Because
incredible, man.
Yeah, it is. He really is unparalleled when you think of the draft position. Like, most of the superstars, I mean, and I'm not...
Nail Gun, in your experience, how quickly do the guys, there's talented quarterbacks that get drafted every year, right? Mm-hmm. The guys that are just doing it for the paycheck, that just show up, how quickly do those guys get weeded out, especially in the NFL?
I think extremely quickly. I mean, because the whole thing about quarterbacks, even, we see this even when we're talking about guys who are advertised as the finished product by the time they come out of college, like, say, Caleb Williams, right? There's an enormous development role, and a lot of it is commitment. Like, in hockey, I think you can get better by playing, right? Because you play 82 games, you practice, but you also get better by playing. in football, because they only play so many games, you're not going to play unless you're good. So it's sometimes you have to develop in the meeting room, in practice. That's your primary development place, far more than in playing in games. Where in other sports like baseball and hockey, I think you've got so much volume of games, you can improve just by playing. And certainly there's some degree of that as football as well. So it's not only just that you got to love it and you want to work at it. It's like you got to work at it on the 5 days when there isn't a game. Right? I always say part of the reason I always believe football players love football more than any athletes love their sport is it's the only one that you got to practice 5 times for every time you play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding.
And be committed to that. So that's the part I think that really. You've heard the joke, right? Football players say, you wouldn't have to pay me to play. You just got to pay me to practice.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the part that really in football requires the commitment. And you're right. When you're talking about quarterbacks, I mean, and CFL, NFL, I hear the same thing. A lot of times, we don't always report this stuff because it's hearsay. But when you hear about guys struggling, it's like he's not putting in the time. Mm-hmm. He's not. There's optional meetings. He's not there. He's not doing the extra film because there's the required stuff and there's the stuff you got to do to be great.
That's the truth of it, man. And in sports in particular, it is even more noticeable. But in football, it is crazy how you hear stories of guys showing up at the facility at 4:30 in the morning, and leaving at midnight.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday during the season. It's
like it's an obsessive sport.
Yeah. MLB, Roy Halladay. Remember hearing stories about him? He was showing up 4:30 in the morning, working out, leaking by the time anyone even got to the facility.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to be self-driven. You got to have a passion for doing that.
There's a guy, and I'll mention who said it to me one time. It was Jesse Licata, who played at Penn State, kid from Ottawa, who's now an NFL free agent. I think he may be back in a camp in not too long. He said to be great at sports, and maybe he was talking about football, he maybe meant in general, he said, you have to fall in love with boredom. Mm-hmm. And that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, you look at a guy like Brady and a guy like Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, like, again, the guys at the top, the freaks of nature that did it all, that had it all. Because you hear a lot of athletes say, like, I'm not going to miss playing. I don't miss this. I don't miss that. I miss being in the room with the guys, or I miss being on the bus. I don't think that's the case for those guys.
No.
They miss playing.
Yeah.
Like, Brady wants a 2-minute drill in the Super Bowl more than being back on the bus with Gronk and the boys. Like, he can live without that. That'd be cool, too. Tiger Woods, put him back on the first tee at Augusta with the lead on Sunday. That's what he wants.
I mean,
he doesn't want to be in the clubhouse having beers.
And the thing I always wonder about this is when you've done those things, what else do you do in life that ever gives you that experience?
You'll never find it again. That's the truth. And that's why I think it's kind of depressing when you think of it. And I think a lot of guys, Frankie, you can speak to this, have a difficult time transitioning back into the real world because you're never going to get that again where everything's on the line. You're playing in the Super Bowl, Cup final, U.S. Open, you got the lead. You can't, nothing will replicate that.
And that's like that's the one extreme, right, Hayes? Like, even just the bare minimum of stepping onto the ice for warm-up and the music starts playing and you hear that little cloud, like the little rise out of the crowd, even something like that, you're like, you're never going to get that again.
Never.
And that's like the bare minimum.
Right, exactly. Like, warm-up is the bare minimum. To say nothing of scoring the game-winning goal or winning in overtime and celebrating with your team and, everything that comes with it. It's an incredibly unique job that is quick. It's quick, man. You got 10 years if you're lucky.
Well, I always hear some guys say in football, one of the things when guys retire from football is they never play again. Like hockey,
you pick up.
Baseball. But in football, you never play contact football again.
If you're a left tackle, you're never doing this again.
Never doing this again.
You're not blocking TJ Watt ever again.
Ever again. Yeah.
With Dave Naylor in studio. So of the research you've been doing, you've seen teams now up close and personal. Do you have a read on where you think the NFL season's going? Do you have a team that you think is the team worthy of watching this year?
I'll tell you, the team that sometimes you when you start to pull back the layers and you go to camp and you talk to other reporters who have been with that team, and certain teams become more intriguing to you than they might have thought on the surface. And to me, the Steelers are that team. And not just because of Aaron Rodgers, right? Like that part is obvious. It goes without saying.
That doesn't hurt.
That doesn't. And thank you for Aaron Rodgers for walking up to the microphone scrum after his first practice and saying TSN is here. That was awesome. I don't know who got him to do that.
That was pretty cool, man. That was really cool.
Awesome. But it's looking at the Steelers. adding Jonnu Smith on a team that already has Pat Freiermuth. So now they've got 2 high-volume tight ends in that offense and DK Metcalf. And so it's like, wow, this is all of a sudden a very different team, like in terms of not just the quarterback, but the kind of offense they're going to run. And then you've got the dynamic where you've got Aaron Rodgers, who likes to take the ball in the shotgun, likes to survey the field. You've got Arthur Smith and kind of the Steeler tradition that likes to ground and pound. So where's that going to sort of saw off? And then defensively, they've had Minkah Fitzpatrick as their safety and their take away the deep ball guy, and they swapped him for Jalen Ramsey, and they've got Darius Slay.
Right, and Porter Jr.
And Porter Jr. So the sense is that, like, the Steelers are going to basically be willing to play a little more risk at the deep end of the field because they're watching the trend in the NFL, which is, really moved more to throws around the line of scrimmage, first 10 yards, get yak. That's become the game more than it has become bombs away. And all these guys are also versatile. So you've got, the same team and the same coaching staff that's not coming off a terrible year, right? They were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And yet they're going to be really different this year. And you can talk yourself into the fact that the Steelers are going to be good.
Yeah.
Or maybe better than
I think they're
intriguing to me.
I think they will
tough division for sure. I want to take you like way far away from Pittsburgh, go to the NFC. What's a reasonable expectation for the 49ers this year? Like, this is the year Brock Purdy's contract is kicking in. Like, he's making the big money now. Like, what can we expect? Because it wasn't good. It was 6-11 last year.
You get my dude Farhan Lalji on the phone. He was just there last week, so he gave me a better answer on that. Than
didn't love him. I don't think Farhan loved what he saw.
Yeah, and I think there's still questions about Purdy, right? Like, it's not quite the Daniel Jones situation where, you got to pay him and you kind of hold your nose and do it and pray. And it didn't work out for the Giants. But I think there's that. Boy, and it's funny, just saw Deebo Samuel in Washington the other day. So, yeah, I don't think they're that far away, but I think they are a team that has a much smaller margin of error than they had not that long ago.
I think they're in trouble, man. They were last in the NFC West last year. You saw it coming because they spent a lot of money the last couple of years, and Purdy was making nothing.
Yeah.
And now it's flipped.
Yeah.
Purdy's making a lot, and they don't have money to keep the guys that they wanted to keep. You still have Warner, you still have Bosa, but they're not young guys anymore.
And McCaffrey is like
you can't trust him, man.
Every year that he plays, like at some point, people are just going to give up on him.
You can't trust him. You can't trust him. And that division, I really like the Rams. Like, they were great in the second half.
They're like the sleeper team this year.
Big time, man. Like, that young defense, they were electric down the. They were the team that really jolted Philly more than anyone else in the playoffs. Arizona, Murray scares me a little, but they've been building something down there
for a while.
And if Darnold plays like he did last year, Seattle, they can win 10 or 11 games. I think the Niners are the worst team in the NFC West.
I remember the moment kind of last season where you all of a sudden realized that the Niners might miss the playoffs, right? Because when you come out of a Super Bowl,
right, and so good for so long, and Shanahan's got that aura.
Yeah, you're just kind of like, well, like, it's not a question. There was a point in the season where you're like, this team might miss the playoffs.
Yeah, 6 wins, I think, last year.
Unreal.
Yeah,
unreal. I remember when they came to Buffalo, got smoked.
Right.
In the snow when Josh Allen and Sean McDermott were doing Snow Angels.
That's right. And Allen, I think he came out of the game in the second half. It was such a blowout.
Yeah. McCaffrey got hurt. It was a nightmare for them.
That was ugly. But Purdy, like, now you're getting paid, man. Now you're no longer Mr. Irrelevant and all that.
No, it's different. It's different in perception. It's different in pressure. And it's, as you point out, Hayes, it's different in the salary cap.
Big time.
Also different. He can afford his rent now, so that's nice for him.
Yeah, that is nice. Shout out to Brock Purdy. Good for him.
It is amazing how quickly stuff changes, right? Like, even being at Bills camp, and my first year doing the Bills in this incarnation was 3 years ago. And I remember Christian Benford was a 6th-round pick out of Villanova. Now he's making $23 million a year.
Pretty good. Pretty good, man.
In 3 years.
Yeah, I know.
You go from, like, NFL minimum, that's what a 6th round would be, to $23 million a year.
Those are the cool stories. Like, obviously, you focus on the big guys and the stars, and, of course, especially with fantasy being so prominent now. But you get some guy that was a 6th or 7th, rounder, or undrafted free agent that started on the practice squad, and all of a sudden, and he gets paid. And you're like, what a story.
Well, it is funny because the Bills are so funny because that same year they took Kyrie Element, same position in the first round. Probably the worst bust in Brandon Beane's tenure. Same draft, they take a corner in the 6th round who's a top 10 corner in the NFL. So are the Bills good or bad at scouting corners?
Right, exactly.
There's a lot of Boy, I'll tell you, though, being down at that Ravens camp, man, have they hit on drive.
They're good.
Holy
They're
smokes.
really
Eric
good.
DaCosta picking up from Ozzie Newsome, they have just hit and hit and hit and hit.
The best teams, that's what they do. They draft, develop. They don't focus necessarily on free agency. They will. They'll delve in, but it's not trades and free agency necessarily. You got to build from within.
Draft, develop, and then pick the ones you're going to keep. And if you're really, really good at it, you can't keep them all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Baltimore, they're going to be a really good team. Really good team. All right, Nail Gun, great seeing you, man.
Hey, yeah, good to be in studio.
Thanks for doing this. Yeah, we got to do this more often. Whenever you're around, just let us know.
Absolutely.
We're here.
I'll drop in. I know where you are.
You know where we are. There he is, Dave Naylor, our TSN Football Insider. All right, role play level of concern coming up later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, role play level of concern in about an hour. MLB trade deadline tomorrow. Jays obviously made a move yesterday. Sir Anthony Dominguez being added to their bullpen. The Jays winning today, but we're waiting on more. There's got to be more. You have to acquire more arms. You have to. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't, Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro are just going to get destroyed. Deservedly so. You've got to add more arms. You have to.
Right back into the firing line. There's been so much goodwill that has come of the Jays' success this season, and they're in a spot that a lot of people didn't think they were going to be. You're up on the Yankees right now, 4.5 games, a chance to win the AL East. You have to. It doesn't have to be all in. Like, that's a crazy term that we use all the time, but you got to make some kind of significant move here or moves to actually say, you know what, like, we're going to take advantage of this thing, because you just don't know when you're going to get this situation again. Yankees, Rays, Sox, even the Orioles for that matter, like, they were really good last year. All those teams can find a way to turn it around in the AL East.
Yeah, and you look at the rest of the American League. We were talking about it last hour. Tigers, good team. Jays just laid a beating on them, 3 out of 4. Yes, they've got Skubal. You're not going to acquire anyone that's even close to him between now and tomorrow. But once you get past Skubal, all bets are off in terms of what the Tigers are going to throw at you. Houston, the same thing. They have a couple of really solid starters to begin their rotation, clearly. And they got a championship kind of pedigree down there that's been around for a while. But go find somebody. Go find at least one more arm. At least one more arm. And I would be shocked if they didn't between now and tomorrow. And the prices are going to be high, but that can't scare you. Your team has proven to you that they are deserving of it. They're deserving of a boost. And I don't need to see any more bats. I don't need to see more flexibility in the lineup. Varsho's going to return. Kirk's going to be here again soon. Springer's going to be back soon. It sounds like these guys are a day or two away from being, activated again and being prepared to play. So I think you've dodged a couple of bullets there. Just arms. You've got to do it.
Earlier, I would have said, man, that Clase in Cleveland, that would be a nice arm to have. I don't think you can say that now
you can't.
About him.
You can't acquire a guy who's on administrative leave because he might be throwing pitcher props. It's just that would be one that would be difficult to. Like the commissioner's office wouldn't allow for it.
That's just that it's completely off the table. But it's wild that became a thing, right? Like, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about Ohtani's henchman there.
I know.
And now here, like, there was the basketball guy, the guy that played for the Raptors.
Yeah, Porter, Jonte Porter.
Yeah. And now and Clase, like, he was in the All-Star game.
He's a stud, dude.
Dude, a couple years ago. All-Star game, he goes on the mound, he's pitching 100, there's heat coming out of the thing, and you're like, that guy's unbelievable, and he's throwing balls in the dirt for no good reason.
Tough, man. Like that, just jamming Cleveland up, like just a complete jam job. And he's going to pay a price, at some point, and obviously he's not pitching right now, but he's not going to be traded. So, you got to go out and find somebody else. And there's a number of names out there that we've talked about and we've heard about and we'll continue to buzz about. But the Jays you're in the driver's seat. And it was a big win today. Big 7th inning. Bo Bichette completely redeeming himself considering the way he played last night. And you walk out of Baltimore. Sure, you lose the series, but at least you got to win today. You stop the bleeding. It's all good. Yeah. So more on that into the next hour. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Blue Jay trade or at least a significant rumor between now and 7 o'clock. So we'll keep you updated on what's going on there. We were talking earlier about Dylan Sandberg, defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets, avoiding arbitration, getting himself a 3-year deal at just under $6 million per. Good player. They were a really good team last year, and feels like if you're in Winnipeg, it's kind of similar to the Maple Leafs in terms of trying to keep as much of the band together as you can. Marner leaves here, Ehlers leaves Winnipeg. Really good regular season last year, really good regular season team for a number of years. You're banking on a magical offseason or a magical postseason run. One. That's it, right? Like, dynasty's out the window. It's not going to happen. If you're in Winnipeg, you're rolling the dice that Hellebuck is going to snap out of it in April, May, and June.
Yeah,
that's what you're banking on.
You're going to retain your talent because the fact of the matter is for Winnipeg is they do draft well. Their general manager has done an excellent job in trades that have kind of been forced upon him, and they've done a good job of retaining talent. Like 2 years ago, they retained their number one center and number one goaltender. Like that was huge. Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk, now Dylan Sandberg, although he's an RFA, Velarde RFA. The point is, a lot of guys have chosen to re-sign in Winnipeg. Like Kyle Connor's coming up. We'll see how that goes. But given what everyone in front of him has said, outside of Ehlers, who clearly just wanted to play somewhere else, it's a pretty good chance that Kyle Connor would stay in Winnipeg. But they fall into that same category of Toronto, where it's like, show us in April. Now, they won a round, and Connor Hellebuck had his ups and downs. But like that's the big thing, man. He's got to play the same way he plays in the regular season in the playoffs, or else there's just only so far the team can go.
Absolutely, man. It is such a drop-off. It's almost shocking. Like, he is the clear-cut best goalie during the regular season year after year after year. He's back-to-back Vezina winner. He just won the Hart. You know, it's like it's right there for him. And then you get to the playoffs, and the guy's numbers, he's getting pulled every other game.
Every other game on the road couldn't do it on the road.
Literally couldn't win on the road.
He's an unbelievable goaltender. He was very deserving of all the hardware this year.
Yep.
I always kind of wonder, like, if you switched out Hellebuck and put him on a below average team. Like Winnipeg's they're one of the best defensive teams in the NHL.
Top to bottom,
scored a lot this
deep.
year. Power play was great. They had a lot of things going. It wasn't just Hellebuck. Like, what would he do on the Islanders? And what would Sorokin do on the Winnipeg Jets? You know, there's always that at play as well, but he's a very, very good goaltender.
Yes, it is valid. He benefits from the system. He benefits from his surroundings. I don't think there's any disputing that. But, you know, at the same time, you get to the playoffs, it flips, right? The whole focus goes to him, deservedly so. And he's got to change that. But I like them, obviously, avoiding arbitration. And now the only player in the league who is going to arbitration is Nick Robertson of the Maple Leafs. And
it's on the books.
It's on the books. It's on the books. It doesn't mean it will get there. August 3rd, I believe. So next week they're gonna come together and try to figure this out and sort it out. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to arbitration. You know, I'm not sure if the Leafs would want to lose out on that flexibility. Because once it goes there and a number is determined, then you're going to stick with it. But
here's the thing about, like, the player going to arbitration. It's one thing to file. It's one thing to have, like, you know, a little bit of a thought or a feeling on what you deserve and you don't want to be taken advantage of. To sit in that room and have to see it and hear it face to face is no good. And if it's like, you know, if it's the difference between 1.8 that, you know, Robertson wants, or $2 million Robertson wants, and the Leafs wanting to pay him 1.5 or 1.4, I think if you're the player, you just kind of have to cut your losses and say, I'm coming at 1.5. All I can ask for is an opportunity, and I'm going to try and get you guys on the next one. Mm-hmm. I just don't think 500 grand is a lot of money in the grand context of life for a player like in the NHL. I think that's one of those ones where you just say, I got to take the opportunity here, and I got to get you on the next one where we're not really haggling over this type of money. Yeah,
I think you're probably right. Now it's his career, and he feels like the Leafs maybe don't give him the opportunities. Although I thought they gave it to him early last year. He had a great camp. He started in the lineup. He played, and he played himself out of the lineup. And certainly come playoff time, he was in and out. I don't think he's got a great case, certainly not for a long-term deal at significant money. And I don't know what his future is going to look like, but I would tend to agree with you. I mean, the Leafs they're still in the driver's seat when it comes to Nick Robertson, and he's got to prove he can be an everyday guy. Now, you mentioned Kyle Connor a moment ago, and now that they've got Sandberg done, I would have to believe that's the next like big thing for Kevin Cheveldayoff and company. Try to get out in front of his UFA status next summer. Like, you've got to keep Connor. He's one of the 5 or 6 best pure goal scorers in the game. Drafted, developed, falls in line with everything you just said about them keeping their own homegrown talent. Ehlers just walked out. You do not want to do that 2 years in a row if you're in Winnipeg. So I'm sure they're doing everything they can to get him on a long-term deal, and it's going to cost a lot of money. Same thing would certainly apply in Edmonton because we're almost into August. On Friday, it's August, and McDavid still has not signed an extension out there. Their GM, Stan Bowman, was on Oilers Today with Bob Stauffer. Here's what he had to say about where the negotiations currently stand.
We're very encouraged by all the conversations I've had to date. And when the time comes, the time comes. So I don't have a timeline update, but I do expect, to have some conversations with them soon and hopefully get that wrapped up.
So, that's kind of what you'd expect to hear. It's always positive conversations. Everyone's having a great time. I'm pretty sure Draisaitl's getting married. I think they're over in like Paris or something like that. So I don't know if McDavid's really in a state to
following the Instagrams.
Yeah, just heard through the grapevine that there's some stuff going on over there, and I'm pretty sure the big guy's getting married pretty soon. So McDavid's somewhat preoccupied. Not that his agent clearly can't take care of business, but I think we're getting to a point where no one's anticipating it's an 8-year deal. Could be wrong, but I think that would be the surprise now if it's an 8-year contract.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like it's going to be a 3 or 4 year deal, and it's certainly it's going to set a new mark, But what do you think that number is going to look like? What do you think his per year cap hit is going to be?
It's got to be north of 16. It's got to be north of 16. The cap this year is 95.5. Next year is going to be roughly 104. It's got to be north of 16, and it probably is going to be less than 18.
Mm-hmm. So somewhere between 16 and 18, which skyrockets him past Draisaitl, clearly. Draisaitl's at 14. He's the pace car in the league for the highest paid player. A good Jerry's will be whether or not there'll be multiple players making more than Draisaitl next year. Because I get the impression in order for Kaprizov to stay in Minnesota, it might cost him $14.5 $15 million.
Yeah.
Would Jack Eichel demand 14.25 in Vegas?
See, that's the no state tax thing about Vegas, though.
Yeah.
He can take less there, sign his extension,
possibly
make a ton of money.
Possibly.
Right?
Does he want to, though? That's always been my stance. Like, yes, he can. All of them can, but they also could say, I don't care about the state tax. I want the percentage of the cap. Pay me.
For
and then
sure.
I make even more money.
He could, yeah. I think with the state tax thing, as long as you get your no movement clause, which someone like Jack Eichel will and should get because other guys who are not even close to Eichel get it, then you're probably okay with it. But you do have to live with Vegas is cutthroat. And if something happens, like they are willing to do whatever. The Kaprizov thing, though, I think that's one where he has them. Like Kaprizov really has Minnesota. They have never had a player like Kirill Kaprizov.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like guys like that just you don't get them very often. And one of the top 5 best players in the NHL when he's healthy. That's the thing, though. He struggles sometimes staying healthy.
You got to consider that.
He could name his number and say, you know what, guys, you're Minnesota. I'm Kirill Kaprizov. You need me more than I need you, and it's going to be a big, juicy number. And
I wouldn't
think they'll
be
have
surprised.
To pay it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That would remind me of like Vladdy with the Blue Jays. What are you going to do? You got to pay it because it's hard for you to get elite talent, and you have it, you have to retain it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kaprizov was the second highest paid player in the league next year. And he shouldn't be because he's a great player, but he's not better than Draisaitl or McKinnon or Makar or Quinn Hughes or Matthews.
It's not far.
He's not far. He's a winger.
Stay healthy.
Not healthy a lot, but he's a really good player. But that comes down to leverage and the situation. And I think you're right. So more on this as we move forward. Best Bets coming up, powered by FanDuel. We'll get to role play level of concern a little bit later this hour, or this afternoon, I should say. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
JP. We had one objective today, and that was Van Halen every single intro. Just couldn't pull it off. Couldn't do it. I don't know.
We got a
Dropped
lot of
the ball.
songs.
I don't know what's up with JP.
To go through, man. We know Eruption yet. No, You Really Got Me.
Very disappointing.
Dance the Night Away.
Yes, Dance the Night Away. Start the 6 p.m. hour with that. Very simple stuff. All right, so we've got some deals cooking in Major League Baseball, and the prices are sky high. Mets acquired Tyler Rogers from the Giants, and they had to give up 3 pieces to get him. And everyone's already jumping online and saying, man, people throughout the league can't believe it. Well, that's the price of doing business. If you want one of these 3 or 4 big bullpen arms that are available that are actually pitching well this year that you'll feel pretty good about acquiring, you're going to have to pay a premium. And that's the question for the Blue Jays here over the next 20 hours or so. Do you have the stomach to do it? Are you going to put in pieces that you were not overly comfortable giving up? But if you want the guy, you're going to have to pay the price.
Yeah, and it's not surprising, I guess, if prices are high, that it's the Mets that are going to dip their toe in and say, we'll go first.
We're going for it.
We'll do it because they'll spend as much money as anyone. And I guess when it comes to acquisition costs, they're like, well, if we're going to be aggressive and spend more than anyone, let's give up more than anyone to bring in who we think is going to help us win.
Yep.
And you know what? I respect it. Like that's saying like we are actually all in on this thing.
That's their attitude. You give a guy $765 million, you better not stop there, right? Like you're all in on winning a World Series. That's the plan. That's the objective for Steve Cohen. Like once he gets one, if they get one, he'll figure it out beyond that. But they are hyper-focused on this season. And I appreciate that as well. Final hour coming up. Role play level of concern. Chris Rose coming up as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050, soon to be up on TSN 2.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Brian Hayes, Frankie Corrado. We're up on TSN 2 now, of course, up on YouTube Live. There he is, David Lee Roth. Love it.
There we go.
Love it.
Attaboy, JP. Totally redeemed himself.
Absolutely. Lloyd Christmas. JP goes Lloyd Christmas on us. Or Bo Bichette. You know, I said earlier, I think his hit in the seventh inning today was the biggest hit of the season for him. Considering the way the game went last night, where it was a really ugly outing for Bo. Struck out 3 times, 0 for 5. Game on the line in the ninth inning last night. One of the worst at-bats you'll ever see. He's an uber-aggressive hitter. He always has been. He always will be. And he steps up tonight. Same scenario, right? They're losing 5-4 at the time. Second and third, only 1 out. But a huge single up the middle. Cashes both runs. Nathan Lucas hits a 3-run home run later that inning. And the rest is history. The Jays stopped the bleeding today. Mandatory. Mandatory.
Yeah. Much needed. And you know what? For Bichette specifically in that situation, confidence, like in sports, but baseball is no different, can be so fickle, right? Like one situation where you do something where he has that swing and miss last night. The ball is like in outer space. He's nowhere near it. Something like that for an athlete, like that can cascade into a couple bad at-bats, and next thing you know, you're looking down like a hitless streak that goes quite a while. Bichette doesn't allow that to happen. He stays hot with runners in scoring position. He's back at it. The Jays get a huge win, and now I guess we just wait and see what happens with the trade deadline and see what kind of reinforcements this team is going to get, because they do deserve it. Like, they deserve something that helps bolster them, because they've put themselves in a great spot, and they've earned their way to where they are.
Yeah, GMs say that all the time. You know, like, I believe in my guys. I believe in this team. Meanwhile, they're really saying they need to continue to prove that. Like, it never stops. You break spring training and you're like, I believe in this group. Okay, let's see, right? Everyone's tied. Everyone's 0-0 in the standings. But now you're this deep into the season. The Jays have played really well. They got a 4.5-game lead on the Yankees. They're leading the division. They got a real chance of avoiding the wild card round altogether. Right, you got to keep pace with the Tigers, the Houston Astros, but you got a real opportunity to make this a magical season. And bringing in Sir Anthony Dominguez, that's a good start, and he looked pretty good yesterday. It's definitely a good start, but you got to keep adding. You have to be willing to pay the price. You have to.
Yeah.
And this team has proven that they're worthy of that, because I would guess they're flying back to Toronto. They're off tomorrow. They're sitting there waiting. You got less than 24 hours to do business now. You know, and if it's a game of chicken, I get it, and you're waiting to see if the other teams are going to blink, and I just don't see it happening. I think if you're waiting for the last minute for whichever team, St. Louis, Minnesota, Arizona, whoever you're dealing with, Pittsburgh, to drop their price, I'm not sure it's going to happen.
I just don't see it happening.
That one actually freaked me out because I wasn't prepared for that. I like it. Al's brother coming out of left field. But
no, you have to be.
Yeah,
you have to be like,
get on it
be
right now.
To pay a price.
Get on the price, exactly. Even if it's an overpayment, who cares? If you get the guy and you improve your baseball team and you give your crew an opportunity to win, go for it.
And that's all those guys would be wanting. The guys that are on the field, the guys that are doing it every day, and they deserve that opportunity. So we'll see, man. Like, I know every front office has their strategy, their game plan. This is how we operate. These are the things we tend to want to do. Like for these guys, they always want guys with term on their deal because they want the cost control, and that's fine. But I think there's always those like one-off moments where you have to treat it as a one of one. And this might be one of those where you say, you know what, this is not an all-in, but a whatever it takes. And we need to do something. And if it's away from our normal philosophy, so be it. Like we can't stand pat and do nothing and just say, come out here and say we believe in these guys and they're going to have to do it, because I think those would be hollow words because we all know that there needs to be something in the rotation and maybe something in the bullpen as well.
And yes, it's going to cost you a fair amount. It's not going to cost you everything you have in your system. It's not. And you look again. I don't think if you acquire an extra bat or a defensive upgrade or a base running upgrade, that's a bonus. I don't think it's mandatory. And I think if they cruise through the deadline tomorrow and they do not acquire a Stephen Kwan or whatever, I don't think anyone cares because your bats have been great. You've got flexibility. You've got left and right-handed hitters. You got reinforcements coming back with injuries. It's clearly about the pitching. It's clearly about maybe trying to find another starter. I think that would be beneficial. But for me, just continue to bolster your bullpen. Get the best bullpen you can have. Be 5 or 6 bullpen arms deep and play it out from there. To chat about what he may expect over the next 24 hours, where he stands on the Jays and the way they've been playing recently, among other teams, and not only in the American League, but, of course, the National League as well. Here he is. Chris Rose. He's been on the show many times from Dugout Discussions and Baseball Today contributor. He's also on the NFL Network. He's everywhere, and he's back on Overdrive. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you?
We're doing very well. Where do you see this going over the next 24 hours? If you're looking into the crystal ball and you think the Blue Jays, very good team, playing really well, leading the American League East, what would you hope to see happen over the next 24 hours?
Yeah, I think Sir Anthony Dominguez was a really good start. I would keep going that direction, definitely. I think he'd just keep adding to that bullpen. I think that's the biggest area of need. I will say this, that even though the offense, I think, has been pretty good, there's no question. And I actually came out on my social media and talked about how the Guardians cannot trade Stephen Kwan without really alienating a fan base, and I truly believe that he would be perfect for your team. Perfect. From a baseball standpoint. He is such a tough out. He is such a grinder. He's got over an 800 OPS in the playoffs, so he's battle-tested, unlike a lot of your guys at a high level that haven't made a deep run in the playoffs. You know, he is everything about that and then some. So I actually think that he's a great fit for you guys.
What kind of appetite do you think the Blue Jays front office would have for a fairly high, or even if you want to call it an astronomical, acquisition cost for a player that's truly going to help them like that?
Well, the problem is I don't think it makes sense from the Guardians standpoint. Mm-hmm. So I just, unless I'm off base, it looks like 6 or 7 of the top 8 prospects that the Blue Jays have are pitchers. And the Guardians need hitting in the worst way. And it looks like your top prospect is a 19-year-old shortstop, which I don't know if that's going to be a tough sell to the city of Cleveland. But if you're Toronto, why wouldn't you go for it? Like, who gives a damn about the rest of this stuff? It's been 32 years since you've made a World Series. If you were to list the teams in order of best to 10th best right now, I don't think that distance is a wide margin at all. So what I'm saying is go for it. We'll figure out 2026 when we get there. And why not? Give your fan base something really to be excited about here.
Well, that's another component that it can complicate things, that there's a real bonus in terms of like buzz, in terms of like tickets, in terms of merchandise. It was 10 years ago, I believe today, they acquired David Price. And, 48 hours later or whatever it was, they went out and got Troy Tulowitzki. And that was bedlam. I can't even tell you what it was like in Toronto. I'm sure you can understand, Chris. I mean, it was just crazy. Sure. And all of a sudden, Price is here and Tulo's here. And they go on this unbelievable heater and they go to back-to-back ALCS. And that generates such an incredible amount of excitement where I could see the owner, which is always sticky, and you never really want to get there if you're a GM. You don't want the owner sniffing around. But I'm sure he's sitting there saying, listen, we're 4.5 up on the Yankees. Building sold out every night. You add 2 or 3 pieces of prominence, like a Kwan and whoever it's going to be out of the bullpen, man, this city will explode. So, A, it makes you better. B, you're that much closer to winning. But C, your fans are going to be so activated. there's a lot of value on that from every single layer.
Yep. There's a lot going on. You're right. There's a business component to every decision you make. But, the business becomes more fruitful the deeper run you make in the playoffs. So it's really about what makes your team the best. And there are, a certain number of pieces. Like I said, I like the Dominguez trade. He's a heavy strikeout guy. He can also be a little nerve-wracking in terms of the plate moving on him, particularly in October. So that can get a little tough. But overall, I like that move a lot. And I just think it's a good start.
With Chris Rose. Yeah, I'm with you. And your assessment of, the American League in particular has been very consistent with what we've been talking about with other people when we've had them on. The two of us have been discussing. Like, I guess the Tigers, Houston, the Jays, Yankees, maybe Seattle, maybe Boston, Texas if they get hot. Like, it doesn't – there's no pace car right now. There's no one that I can sit here and say, I guarantee you that's the best team in October. So why wouldn't it be the Blue Jays? Why not put your chips in?
Yeah. There's not a team that they're going to be terrified of. I think Detroit can get a little tricky in a short series if it goes 5 games because Skubal is such a dog, and he could guy throws strikes and he challenges you. So if you get quick outs, he could still be in there in the 8th inning. And that can terrify you a little bit. It did me last year as a Cleveland fan, right? I mean, we had to beat him in Game 5, and we ended up doing it. It's not – you don't want to make a living out of that. But that's what I would say. It's just – I think it's worth it. People say, oh, we're giving up so much. Guys, teams give up top prospects all the time. And some of them turn into great players. It does happen. But so many of them don't. And wouldn't you rather have a guy that has made it at this level, regardless of contract length? And I know you have to measure it. Every deal is its own vacuum, so I understand that. But there's no reason for Toronto not to go for it.
How do you assess Vladdy's season so far? 15 home runs on the year. Like, not really knocking it out of the park, but has been a really good ball player for them. In Toronto, do we maybe have too high of expectations for what he is as a power hitter, or is he, underachieving, I guess, with the power game, but is bringing other things to the table that helps the Blue Jays be a good team?
Yeah, he's had a really good year. Now, would I have ever paid a guy $500 million? Probably not, but I always measure that this way. Does it prevent you from doing business elsewhere? And that's the only answer. So when Steve Cohen pays $765, that's going to end up being $800 million for Juan Soto, is that going to prevent him from making other moves? I presume not. The question I always had with the Vlad deal was, if you're going to give him this amount of money, does that mean that you have to cut back elsewhere? And people can say whatever they want. They're like, well, they said that it's not. Well, saying and doing a couple of years down the road are two totally different things. So I don't think he'll ever be like a consistent Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, high 900s. He can have seasons like that, and we've seen him have seasons like it. But right now he's like 865 OPS, really good. Strikeout to walk ratio 1-to-1. That's elite stuff, particularly out of a guy that can park it. He's got almost 40 extra base hits. So he's going to have, 55 extra base hits this year. That's going to be pretty solid. That's all good stuff. It might not ever be elite on a consistent basis. I think there's going to be elite years. And I just think as long as you kind of go into the mindset knowing that, then that's good enough.
Well, and I think in terms of what you're saying about, the Vladdy payments not having an effect on the payroll, I think it comes down to wins and losses. Like, that's when it will be challenged. If they're a really good team, keep spending because we're going to keep making money. The issue is if they sink at any point in the next 13 or 14 years, they'll hold that against whoever is the GM, whoever is the president here, where I think that's probably different with Cohen. Like, Cohen will just spend his way out of that. Like there won't be dips.
Right.
So just keep spending and spending and spending.
He doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't. He just there is no bottom to his vat of money.
Well, and you look at what the Mets did today. They acquired Tyler Rogers from the Giants, who's been red hot this year, but they gave up a lot to get him. And that's the buzz around baseball. If you want to go get, a guy who's high leverage that's really going to bolster your chances of winning, you got to pay a lot. I kind of have an appreciation for the Mets. Like that really that's clearly permeating from the top down. Go get Soto. Go get this guy. Go get that guy. Give up these guys. Like they're all in to win it. And they're a better team today than they were yesterday, regardless of how much they paid.
Yeah, and so there's two ways to look at it. One is the Mets Stevie Cohen way, which is, well, we can afford to give up prospects because guess what? We're going to go get proven major leaguers in the free agent market regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's remember the one thing he said at the beginning of his Mets ownership. We want to be the East Coast version of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the reason the Dodgers have been so successful is a couple of things. Number one, they are willing to spend whatever money they have to. But really, at the bedrock of their foundation is the fact that they draft and develop extremely well. They have, in trades, they've given away a ton of players that have made it at the major league level. And for some organizations, that would kill them because teams would look back and they said, oh, we could have had all this cheap labor and gotten great production. Look at what it's done to us. But the Dodgers just say, you know what, we're so good at drafting and developing, we'll just do it again down on the farm. And they do. They always have one of the top 5 to 7 farm systems so that when they need pieces like they do right now, they are able to go out and meet the asking price for whatever it is on top of being able to add through free agencies.
Now that we're talking out west, we're talking Dodgers. Is it the most, Padres thing ever that they're actually having a pretty good season? They got 59 wins, but they're still 4 games back of the Dodgers, who, by all accounts, they were kind of spinning their wheels a little bit. They were 3-7 over 10 games, and then won some in a row. But they're like, we're not playing great baseball, but they're just still ahead of the Padres, who are just under 60 wins.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are having a good year. We expected them, and we talked about it at the beginning of the year. Can they get past 116 wins? And I really don't think that they cared about it. I just think they want to get the healthiest 26 guys they can to October. So I really don't think they care if they win the division by 3 games or 17 games. They just don't care. But the Padres, it's not like that. I mean, the Padres have been a good baseball team. You could have made an argument that they were the second-best team in baseball a year ago. That they just ran into the Dodgers in the divisional round in a 5-game series, right? They led that thing 2-1, and the Dodgers were staring at a bullpen game. And when you talk to the Dodgers after the World Series, they said they were most scared of the San Diego Padres. So the Padres are, they're in good shape. If they get to the playoffs, which I think they will, no team's going to want to play them because I think that Preller's going to do something nuts over the next 24 hours. And when I mean nuts, fun for his team and fun for us to watch. Could he trade Dylan Cease? Yes. But could he end up bringing in a Sandy Alcantara on the other side of it? He could.
With Chris Rose, well, in terms of the Dodgers, you got Ohtani back on the mound tonight. I think this will be his 7th start. And he's creeping. He actually made his first start against the Padres about a month ago. His numbers are great. He's now going about 3 innings. Maybe tonight, I don't know. Does he go 4 innings? How many pitches is he gonna get up over 50 tonight? 55, 60? Where do you stand on that projection? Ohtani as a starter now that we're almost into August.
Well, once again, it's unlike anything we've ever seen because the rest of these guys who are trying to come back from arm surgery, and we can focus on a guy that's near and dear to my heart, and Shane Bieber, who's made a handful of rehab starts now. He's doing it out of sight, out of mind in the minor leagues. Shohei Ohtani, they can't afford to do that because he's got to hit 5 times a game on top of it. It's just incredible when you really think about what he is doing. He is rehabbing at the major league level. Who does that?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So They just want to be able to build him up so that if he can, give them 6 innings in a playoff start in the divisional round, great. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but Blake Snell's going to make his first start this weekend since early April. These are all big things. Tyler Glasnow has been back for a couple of starts and pitched okay last night, but pitched exceptionally well in his previous start against the Twins where he struck out 12. The Dodgers, they like it when they're playing well at the end of July, but if you ask them if they were hooked up to the lie detector, they would tell you we need to be moving in the right direction from September 20th on.
And I have full faith they will do that. And I think most people do.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the truth. That's the way they operate. He is Chris Rose. Great catching up with you, Chris. We appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure, guys. Take care. Good luck at the trade deadline, and keep your hands off Stephen Kwan.
Yes, we will do our best to do all of that. Thank you. There he is.
Thanks.
Native of Cleveland, big Guardians fan. And, Kwan's, he's a name that's been linked here also because of the Shapiro and Atkins connection to Cleveland. He's a leadoff hitter. He said he grinds, he battles, he has playoff experience. So I could have seen that. Like, you talk about a massive package. If Clase wasn't dealing with what he's dealing with right now, if you brought in Clase and Kwan, you'd have to pay a fortune for that, clearly. A fortune, including ready-made, MLB players. Like Nathan Lucas is going the other way. Lou Porfido is going the other way. And, your top prospects going the other way. But I don't know if Kwan, on its own makes sense. But we'll see, because Shane Bieber's also, he's working his way back from Tommy John. It sounds like he's going to be prepared to pitch at some point by the end of the season. There's a guy who's won a Cy Young before. Like, that's a gamble. Bieber and Kwan, and you got to pay a hefty price. That would be a crazy trade.
You know what we never really talk about in all this is that if Alek Manoah was healthy and there, like, they really wouldn't need anyone in the rotation.
Well,
they would just be adding a bullpen arm. Like, I don't know. It seems like such a long time ago that Alek Manoah was such a force, like, just operating at such a high level, the ace for this rotation.
Yeah.
And now I just don't know if we ever get back there.
I don't think you can rely on it. I mean, the reality is I don't see him factoring in this year. I think he'd have to get through this season in the minor leagues, and then next year return to camp, be healthy, and prove he can be a guy that you can rely on. Because
it feels like it's light years away.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately,
and
it's just
included.
The truth.
Before he got hurt, like, there was performance issues for sure, and then the health stuff, the Tommy John, that doesn't help. But holy smokes, man! If you had him the way he was his first year when he hopped onto the scene as in that rotation, that solves a lot of problems for you.
Yeah, like, he was your horse, man. He started game 1 of the wild card against Seattle, but that was 3 years ago. And the wheels have fallen off ever since. And injuries and performance. But you're right, like, that felt like a ready-made, homemade ace. You push Gosman down, Barrios down, like everything was going to stack up perfectly. But we don't live in a perfect world. That said, who saw Addison Barger playing the way he's playing? Nathan Lucas playing the way that he's playing. Ernie Clement, had a couple of big hits today. So, like, you got Lou Porfido hitting leadoff today and Ernie Clement hitting second and Nathan Lucas hitting a game-winning home run. So, guys come and go. That's the reality of it.
It's pretty remarkable, too. And the Lou Porfido, like, comes in the Kikuchi trade, who – like, remember that trade when that went down? I thought, like, the Jays got a lot for Yusei Kikuchi. He was pretty highly coveted, and now a piece that came back the other way is, like, he's been quite the factor, man. He's been very consistent, and like, he's a ball player every day of the week.
Big time. Ken Rosenthal tweeting out that the Phillies are close to acquiring Johan Duran from the Twins. So there's a big, stud arm that was available that appears to be on his way to Philly. We'll see what they're paying in return for him, but that was a guy that maybe some people were linking to the Blue Jays. We had Dallas Braden on a couple hours ago. He mentioned him. It's like, who would you rather have, Duran or Hoffman? Highest leverage moments in the playoffs. He chose Duran. I think most people would, considering what's going on with both guys. But it doesn't appear as if he's on his way here. He's going to be flying over Toronto on his way to Philly.
There's that like punch counter punch, right? Like the Mets make a big deal.
Yep.
They acquire someone who's half game back. The Phillies.
Yep.
It's like we're not giving up in the arms race because Phillies got a lot of jam, man. That team come playoff time, like it feels like they thrive in those types of moments.
The Harpers and the Schwarbers and Yohan Duran. Again, we'll see what the Phillies are paying, but you're right. The Mets go out and get Rogers, and they get Duran. And his stats have been phenomenal this year. He's got a 2 ERA. He's healthy, strikes out a ton of guys. Big bullpen arm, and he's on his way from Minnesota to Philly, according to Ken Rosenthal. So if you're the Jays, you got to find something here, man. Like you've got to be active. You got under 24 hours. You're not the only teams in the hunt. The Yankees are still out there. The Sox, Houston, Detroit, I think will still be active. Seattle could be active. And we haven't heard from the Dodgers yet either, right? They got all those guys injured.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Dodgers might step in and say, you know what we're going to do? We'll get in the dance. We're going to bring these guys in. So,
and don't kid yourself, man. Like we just heard from Rose, like the Padres, like that's a team that's not going quietly. They're having a great season as well.
Yeah.
Like they were the team that stepped up to get Soto when he initially got traded.
That's right.
So that's a team that's willing to part with some currency to bring in a piece that matters.
And look at the Cubs. Like look what just happened as they went through Milwaukee. And they're a game back of the Brewers. So you got the Brewers, you got the Cubs, the Phillies, the Mets. The Dodgers are going to be loud. Padres still could be loud. There's going to be a lot of activity still to be played out here, man. Less than 24 hours. Best Bets powered by FanDuel coming up. Role play level of concern coming up as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do. I really do.
One bourbon, one scotch, one beer. Well, I ain't seen my baby since.
All right, role play level of concern, which we'll get to here, but there's a couple things I wanted to bring up that I think we can apply role play level of concern to. I don't know if you saw the GM of the Sixers being quoted, Daryl Morey. He was speaking with The Athletic, and I have no idea how he stumbled across this topic, but he said, quote, everyone I speak to around the league privately agrees that it doesn't truly hold up as a genuine championship, end quote, talking about the Lakers' COVID bubble title.
Why go there?
But that's
why go there? Why say that?
You haven't won anything, Daryl Morey. Nothing. So sure, the Lakers maybe have a bit of an asterisk. What have you done in Houston? What have you done in Philly? Nothing. Your team was a disaster last year. So the goal of this guy to go on the record,
dude.
But furthermore, I guess role play level of concern. I'll throw it out to you. Let's say you are the Lakers from 2020. Do you feel like you need to justify that being a legitimate championship? Does Daryl Morey have anything to back up here his comments?
I will go old school, pint on the patio.
Okay,
no.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. You know why? All the teams were in the same situation. Mm-hmm. It's not like there was like an uneven playing field, and the same applies to the hockey bubble when people talk about Tampa Bay. Oh, it was the bubble. Okay. Were they all playing the bubble? Yeah. So, like, one team had to win. Who was the best team? Who found a way to do it? So if I'm the Lakers of 2020, I say, you know what? That's great. That just sounds like you're a little jealous or whatever. You're having feelings about it, and we won, and now your team is garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird topic to bring up 5 years later. It feels like something you're just trying to justify your own failures. Like, yeah, sure, the Lakers and LeBron, they have technically won in the last 5 years, but no one really takes it seriously. So it's just a weird comment from a guy like Daryl Morey of all people, who, again, has not won anything in this league. One of the more hyped management types ever that's done nothing. All right, moving on here, Frankie. You're playing the role of the Major League Baseball's Players Association. What is your level of concern? You're going to lose the battle in the end, and a salary cap is coming to Major League Baseball.
I'll go Stevie Caldwell.
A couple of whiskeys and 5 or 6 beers.
Yeah, Stevie Caldwell. Like, ultimately, it is going to depend on what the big boys do. That's who really drives the union. There can be a lot of guys who are the smaller players who have voices and opinions, but it really depends on what the star players and the guys who make the most money, where they want to drive the bus with this type of thing. And it depends what you want to give up. Like if you're going to have a hard opinion or, drive a stake into the ground on no salary cap, there's got to be something else that the league gets that they're happy with. And so we'll see what that is. That's why I'm not like a pint on the patio, because there's going to be a give and take, whether it's, amendments to, I really don't know what it would be. Would it be pension related? Who knows? But there would have to be something going the other way. I would say that the players would really dig in on this one and say, you're not doing the salary cap. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate level of concern. I mean, I think it comes down, you mentioned the heavy hitters in the union, clearly, but it also comes down to how much the owners are willing to stomach. Like how much they really feel it's necessary for them to change the way that the business is operated. Because it's been operating in the way it's been operating for well over 100 years. And baseball, I think, is in a pretty good place. It's a pretty hot commodity right now. You got the Yankees good, Dodgers good, you got Judge, you got Ohtani, you got a lot of international money, international interest. So, I'll believe it when I see it that the owners are really all in on this. And are they using this as some sort of a tactic to make sure that the players concede somewhere else? Are they going to push Like, oh, we're cap. And the players are like, no chance. And I'm like, all right, if it's no cap, then it's got to be this. And the players will think it's a win by accepting that. That could be a part of the negotiation as well. I don't trust either side. Let me be clear here.
No, but
as a fan, I don't trust either side.
Keep in mind, Hayes, not every owner wants to have a salary cap. You think Cohen wants to have a salary cap?
He
wants
probably
to spend
doesn't.
as much as he wants.
Yes, he probably doesn't.
He'll look at it and say, why the hell do I want to allow the Pirates to have the same chance of winning as me?
Right.
No way. You don't want to spend your money? That's your prerogative. I want to buy a ring. So you wouldn't get unanimous voting across the board on ownership when it comes to the salary cap
that's for sure. Although I thought I saw that there was some sort of reporting that even the Steinbrenners are pro salary cap, which if that's the case, that is an indication of hell freezing over. Because they're the equivalent of Steve Cohen. They're even more so. The Yankees have been the heaviest hitters, the highest payroll forever. If they're all in or a true believer in the benefits of a salary cap, that's scary for the Players Association. All right, rolling on here. I am playing the role of the National Bank Open. What is my level of concern? This will not be a one-off for Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz pulling the chute. Play it.
You can never ask me to stop drinking.
All right, there you go. Okay, the reason I'm saying this is because I do think we're living in a new era now where, we talked about this with Patrick McEnroe. We live in the rings era where load management and a focus solely on how much championships you make is the priority of everyone. We're seeing it in golf. There's so much money, and there's such a small amount of players that are truly dominating. And with these two men in particular, it is such a massive gap, Alcaraz, Sinner, and everyone else, that unfortunately my concern is they're going to care about 4 tournaments, and then they'll pick a handful of other ones that are going to be a high priority for them. Tune-up tournaments where the purse is significant, tournaments that mean something to them. Right? Maybe in Europe, if there's tournaments in Spain, if there's tournaments in Italy, if you're Sinner, like those are going to be the priorities. And I'm not saying they're never going to be back. They will. They're young. But I'm not convinced they're going to be here every single year. Like this year, they both pulled the chute, effectively citing different reasons, but basically saying we've played a lot of tennis. It sucks. Sorry. They're going to keep playing a lot of tennis. Next year, I think they'll both be in the French Open again, finals. And then they'll be in Wimbledon final. So why would Toronto or Montreal next year be any different? Like if they're playing 4- and 5-set classics against each other at Wimbledon every single year, which is probably going to consistently happen, why would they show up in Montreal next year? Yeah, I think it's a real concern, man. They don't have to. They make so much money. They have so many points. They're so clearly the 2 best players in the world. They don't have to come to a tournament like this.
That's exactly it, man. They don't necessarily have to grind for every last dollar. They're making so much on their winnings already, and it's not like they need this tournament. And I think a lot of it, you talk about tune-ups, is going to be schedule permitting, right? Like you want to do tournaments maybe on the upswing. Get yourself ready for a big tournament, not coming down from these majors where you're out of gas and you're like, why am I going to fly all the way across the, halfway across the world to go grind in Toronto? And I truly don't really have to.
Right. Well, exactly. And that's the truth, man, is it sucks because like I'm watching tennis last night. Coco Gauff almost lost. Like she battled back. She was down a break in the 3rd set. She ends up winning, but she's the number 1 seed in Montreal. She almost went out, basically on night 1. And, you got a lot of just prominent players who aren't in the tournament. The Canadian Shapovalov lost yesterday. Leylah Fernandez lost. You're banking on Felix and Jeannie Bouchard going tonight.
She's done, right? Like this is it. This is the last tournament.
This
for her.
is it. So, like from a Canadian standpoint, you don't have a lot left. Djokovic is in here. Sinner's not here. Alcaraz is in here. Sabalenka. You're that close to losing Coco Gauff. It's just it hasn't been a good start. Like the tournament, it's too bad. It's just it hasn't had the juice that it's had in the past. And when it comes to the men's side, there's still great players here. But Sinner and Alcaraz move the needle like nobody else. Like the two of them are so – they're a package deal. They're the best of the best. And they've played this tournament in the past, and again, they will play it. It's not that they're never going to show up again. I just don't think in this modern era of sports where they make so much money and it's ring chasing or major chasing or slam chasing, that's their priority. Get a French, get a Wimbledon, and make sure you're ready for the U.S. Open. And if Toronto doesn't fit in, so be it. They'll just pull the shoe.
Crazy? Back when I was playing for Toronto, a bunch of us got invited to do like a road hockey game on center court. A bunch of NHL players, and Djokovic played with us. And it was like amazing to watch the best tennis player in the world pick up a hockey stick and have no coordination.
Right.
And no idea what he's doing with the thing. And it literally looked like it was the first time the guy ever picked up the thing. He was cumbersome. He didn't know how to stick handle. He didn't know how to hold the thing. He was kind of like rolling the orange ball along. And we were sitting there, we're like, that is the best tennis player on the planet Earth. And it's so funny how, tennis, he would do it, and you put the hockey stick in his hands, it looked like he, no idea what he was doing.
Yeah, I guess.
So bizarre to see that up close and personal.
And probably the same thing, you put a golf club in his hand, no idea what he's doing, and
magical with a tennis racket.
Of course. Yet that's probably all he's ever done.
That works.
If that's all you do from the age of 4 or 5, all you do is play tennis. He probably plays soccer a little bit, right? The Europeans are always, it's almost like it's mandatory. You have to be able to dribble a ball or do some sort of trick with a soccer ball. But it's true. All right,
he was
moving on.
Nice guy, though. He talked to us, asked us a million questions. Nice guy.
Interesting dude.
Yeah, very, very fascinated about hockey. Not that he knew he wasn't talking about teams, but it was just asking how we do this, and it was
who would be the best Serbian player ever? I don't know how many hockey players. I don't know. Maybe look that up.
No idea.
Well, you look at that country now. You got Jokic and Djokovic as the best of the best, right? Coming out of a country of how many million people there? 3 million people. I don't think it's a massive country in terms of population. And yet Jokic. You see that video that came out earlier in the week when his horse won some big race and he's bawling his eyes out?
Was he dancing again?
Yeah, he's dancing and crying. And people have been splicing it together, his reaction to his horse winning a race compared to when he won the NBA title, where he was kind of like, oh, all right, good stuff. Yeah, this is great. Yeah. He loves his horses. He loves
it, man. And he loves throwing a dance on in the off season. He's got his arms in the air like he is grooving, and then couldn't care less that he won a championship.
Yeah. Right after he won,
business.
they did the locker clean out, and hey, what's it like now, Nicola, now that you're a world champion and MVP of the finals? And that's great, but I'm just looking forward to getting home because my horse is racing tomorrow. I think he said his horse was racing the next day or the day after he had won a championship, and he was dying to get all the way back to Serbia so he could watch him race live.
Look at this guy go.
Yeah. Look at him.
The horse.
He's crying. He's like, you're the best. You're the best. Hugging the jockeys, the trainers. Can't believe it. Meanwhile, this guy wins a championship. He shakes hands with Jamal Murray. And, hey, Mike Malone, thanks for everything. See you later.
You know who that reminds me of? That reminds me of our friend, our coworker, Carlo Koliakovo. He won the member guest at the National and said that was the best moment of his life. Yeah. Best sporting moment of his life.
Isn't that incredible?
Played in the NHL, scored NHL goals, playoffs, Team Canada, World Juniors. Best sporting moment. Winning a net member guest.
A member guest. From when you're you're in the ninth flight.
Carlo.
Yeah, I know. The guy won a Memorial Cup, I believe. Certainly an OHL championship with Erie.
He won an OHL championship, yeah. He turned the lights out at the London Ice House. He scored the last ever goal there.
Oh,
turned
really?
The lights out.
Okay, there you go.
Best moment, though. Member guest
Member
champion.
guest. Rolling in a 3-foot putt on 18 at the National.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically the same thing. Jokic is saying this is much more meaningful to me. All right, we'll try to sneak in a couple of more role plays. We'll get to our best bets powered by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. FanDuel with a pretty decent bet here. Betting option on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Shohei Ohtani to go 6 up, 6 down. Start the game in Cincy tonight, paying plus 400. I'm on it. I'm on the Dodgers on the run line tonight. They are favored tonight. I think they win and win big. Dodgers got to get it cooking, and I think Ohtani has himself an outing. 6 up, 6 down for plus 400. Best bets.
I'm going to join you.
Okay, jump on board. There you go. Powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. All right, so we've got Tyler Rogers going from the Giants to the Mets, and then Johan Duran going from the Twins to the Phillies. Phillies given 2 top prospects up in the deal. So it's going to cost you a lot. Mets had to give up 3 players. Phillies give up 2. Those are 2 big arms, really good arms, bullpen adds. NL East is cooking. The Jays acquired Sir Anthony Dominguez yesterday. It's a good start. Got to do something between now and 6 p.m. tomorrow. Got to add more.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised, Hayes, if that's just it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the move, and then they're going to say that the prices were too high. Like, would you put that past them based on their track record of how they conduct business here?
I wouldn't. I would be thoroughly disappointed. I would think that would be completely inexcusable. But without knowing exactly what the prices are, that's the thing. Like, once the deadline leaves, then you're going to put faith in that type of commentary, right? If you choose to. Because, of course, the Jays, if that happens, hypothetically, they'll sell. It was just crazy what was being asked of us. You know, okay, what is crazy? Well, we're not going to tell you what crazy was. You just got to take us at face value that it was crazy, you know. But, yeah, it's, you know, you got to pay to play. It's going to cost a lot. The Phillies are in. The Mets are in. The Jays got in yesterday. You know, but they didn't pay that much of a premium. They give up a decently rated prospect. You have a lot more in the system. And furthermore, you're committed to Vladdy. If you're going to keep Bo, which very well could happen, that's just going to cost you money, right? You feel pretty good about Barger. You feel pretty good about, I think, Clement. And you're not going to trade everybody. Maybe Luke Perfito gets dealt. Maybe Lucas gets dealt. But some of them are going to stick around. You're committed to Kirk. You've signed him. He's not going anywhere. So, you know, a lot of your youth is kind of locked up and here and ready to go. So
you just don't know. You just don't know when you're going to find yourself in this position, like 4.5 games up on the Yankees at the end of July, and things are going well for you. Everything seems to be cooking offensively. You're getting, you know, offensive run support. You're getting production from guys that maybe you weren't expecting to get it from, and your big boys are playing great ball. Like Bo Bichette's playing great. Vladdy, despite the lack of home runs, is still, you know, a very, very productive player. So this is one of those things where you have to take advantage of it because you just don't know if you're going to be in this position again. Or when.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You can't. You'll be in this position again. Just will it be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road? That's what That's what you have to kind of contemplate here.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, I mean the Phillies gave up really highly touted prospects. You know, so you're gonna be uncomfortable with what the price is gonna be. Ideally, you acquire someone who's got term. Like that is what I'm sure they're trying to do, not just a pure rental. Because if it's a pure rental, you probably don't have to pay as much. But if you're going to give up one of your 2 or 3 best prospects or multiple guys inside your top 5, ideally you get multiple runs out of whoever you're acquiring. But
easier to stomach it.
Easier to stomach that for sure. And listen, maybe it's not big game hunting. Maybe it's not, you know, the most enviable option or the most, you know, productive player that's available. But I think you got to add some depth to your team. At a minimum, make a move or 2 that brings in someone who can give you a start in a pinch, who could be a long relief option come the playoffs.
Or someone who's got some kind of stuff maybe that you're like, you know what,
unlock
in a situation, you bring in a lefty or you bring in someone who's got a certain pitch and you're like, I know that guy's a specialist in that regard.
Yes.
Just one more weapon at your disposal.
Let's see what they got. I'm sure we'll find out by tomorrow. All right. Good stuff, Frankie. Thank you for doing this, as always. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. TV, radio, podcast, web, and, of course, up on YouTube Live on TSN's YouTube channel. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.